Chapter 3567. Mo Yin without death status. When I learned that the person who exterminated the Phoenix people was called Long One, I knew that Long One was you. Mu Qinshu said this before rolling her eyes at Zhuowen and saying, "The Phoenix people are so strong, and you actually dared to charge in alone. If something happened, what would I do?" Zhuowen gave an embarrassed smile and hugged Mu Qinshu as he said, "Your husband is blessed with great fortune. How could anything happen to him?" Yes. You are blessed with great fortune, but you can't be too emotional in the future. Your life is the most important thing. However, you charging into the Phoenix people alone, I'm still very happy," Mu Qinshu said with a smile. Zhuowen kissed Mu Qinshu's forehead and said, "Chun Shui, leave the demonic beast Saint Palace and come with me. Father, mother, and the others are all in the outside world. If they know that you're back, they'll definitely be very happy." Mu Qinshu shook her head and said, "Husband, the demonic beast saint has treated me well. In order to help me break through to the half-step heaven-breaking realm, he did not hesitate to use the energy of the 9th level to help me consolidate my cultivation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to cultivate to the second heaven's decay so quickly." Hearing this, Zhuowen was a bit helpless. The demonic beast, Saint Dongwang Tai, had indeed helped Mu Qinshu a lot. Now that he had let Mu Qinshu leave, it was indeed a bit hard to explain. "Chun Shui, then do you plan on staying in the demonic beast Saint Palace like this?" Zhuowen asked with a frown. Mu Qinshu shook her head and said, "I don't have this kind of plan. As long as I can enter the 9th level and pass through the 9th level, I can leave the demonic beast Saint Palace. This is the rule that the demonic beast saints set for me. Before I can pass through the 9th level, I will continue to help the demonic beast saint. In the future, when he reaches the peak and his cultivation reaches the heaven-breaking realm, he said that he was willing to give the demonic beast Saint Palace to me." Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. Mu Qinshu had told him that the demonic beast saint had helped her a lot. In terms of gratitude, Mu Qinshu couldn't just leave like this. "All right, Chun Shui, I respect your decision, but before this, I will find that demonic saint to explain our relationship. I will remind him that you cannot suffer any grievances in the demon saint palace. Otherwise, even if he is a demon saint, I will teach him a lesson," Zhuowen said proudly. After he reached the 3rd blight, his strength had increased greatly. Although his original body's strength couldn't compare to a 5th blight cultivator, if he combined with his avatar, the demon saint wouldn't be able to do anything to him. The current him had the qualifications to the demonic beast Saint Palace's Shuiyang. Mu Qinshu gave a laugh and said, "All right, stop boasting. Sir Demonic Beast Saint has already broken through to the 5th blight. If you want to remind him, it might not be enough yet. However, I believe that husband will definitely catch up to the demonic beast saint and become the strongest person under the starry sky." Zhuowen revealed a faint smile. He did not explain his strength and continued to say, "Chun Shui, do you want to see your parents, Han Tian, and the others? They also came to the demonic beast Saint Palace?" Mu Qinshu asked in a surprised voice. "Ryuka has already moved to my large world, and Wushang has also awakened." Mentioning Moyan Wushang, Zhuowen's expression became complicated. "Wushang is awake. Is that true? Then bring me over to take a look." When Mu Qinshu heard that Moyan Wushang had awakened, she was very happy. She could not wait to enter the large world to take a look. Zhuowen revealed a faint smile and brought Mu Qinshu into the large world. Mu Qinshu had already taken off her veil, revealing her beautiful face. The two of them arrived at Ryuka, and the Ryuka high-level members naturally came out to greet them. "She is Chun Shui. Chun Shui is back." Feng Xiao and Long Xiaodian walked in front. Feng Xiao saw Mu Qinshu with a single glance. She was stunned at first, but then she excitedly rushed forward and tightly hugged Mu Qinshu. "Chun Shui, you've suffered all these years. Look at how thin you become. My heart aches just looking at you." Feng Xiao cried tears of joy, and her words became incoherent. Mu Qinshu gently hugged Feng Xiao and said, "Mother, aren't I living well now? The matters of the past are already in the past. Mu Chinchue had already married Zhuan and was Zhuan's wife, so Zhuan's parents were Mu Chinchue's parents. Mu Chinchue hugged Feng Xiao and then looked at Long Xiaotian in front of her. She said with a smile, "Father, Chinchue has made you all worry." "Ha, Chinchue, it's good that you're back." Long Xiaotian did not say much, but he revealed his true feelings. His eyes were misty. Lu Hantian, Wu Dai, and many other people who were familiar with Mu Chinchue came forward to ask about her well-being. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Everyone had reunited after a long time, so naturally they had many things to say. Zhuan watched this scene with a faint smile. Then he came to Long Xiaoyan's side and said in a low voice, "Father, why hasn't Wushang come out? Did you inform her?" Long Xiaoyan's eyes dimmed, and he said with a sigh, "I have already informed Wushang, but she did not respond. Moreover, she has been cooped up in her room during this period of time, not seeing anyone." Hearing this, Zhuan frowned. He really did not expect that after Moyan Wushang woke up, his entire person would change. Moreover, he found that Moyan Wushang was faintly alienating them. This made Zhuan a little anxious. He did not know where the problem was. "Where's Wushang? Didn't you say that she had already woken up? Why don't I see her?" Mu Chinchue chatted with everyone for a while. When she did not see Moyan Wushang, she could not help but ask in surprise. Everyone, who had been chatting harmoniously, fell silent at the mention of Mo Yin of War. Even Feng Xiao was no exception. Mu Chinchue felt that something was wrong. She looked at Feng Xiao and said, "Mother, did something happen?" Feng Xiao glanced at Zhuan and said, "Wen'er, didn't you tell Chinchue about that matter?" Zhuan smiled bitterly and said, "I didn't have time to tell her." Sensing that something was amiss, Mu Chinchue hurriedly asked, "What happened? Are you hiding something from me?" "It's like this." After Wushang woke up, her personality seemed to have changed greatly. Feng Xiao sighed softly and began to talk about how after Moyan Wushang woke up, he closed the door and did not see anyone. Moreover, his personality had completely changed, as if he did not recognize anyone. But so far, no one has seen him. Could it be that he lost his memory? Mu Chinchue frowned and continued, "I have to go and take a look. Husband, take me there now." Zhuan hesitated for a bit, then nodded and said, "Okay, you go and try. Maybe he will see you." Zhuan brought Mu Chinchue to Moyan Wushang's pavilion. Mu Chinchue tried to knock on the door and told him that it was Mu Chinchue. However, Mu Chinchue waited outside the pavilion for a long time, but there was no movement in the room, let alone someone to open the door. If Mu Chinchue's divine sense hadn't found Moyan Wushang in the room, she would have thought that there was no one in the room. She saw Moyan Wushang sitting on the edge of the bed with a dull look in his eyes. He did not respond to her calls. "Husband, what the hell is going on? Wushang doesn't seem to recognize me at all." Mu Chinchue didn't force her way in, but looked at Zhuan and said worriedly, "I don't know what's going on. When Wushang woke up, I checked her body and soul. There was no problem, but she woke up like this. I can't find a specific reason." Chapter 3568. Mu Chinchue hesitated for a moment and sighed, then let Wushang rest for a while. "I won't disturb her." Zhuan nodded. Mo Yin Wushang's condition was indeed very bad. It hadn't changed since Zhuan left. This made Zhuan a little worried, but now he had no way to solve Mo Yin Wushang's problem. He could only watch. Zhuan and Mu Chinchue bid farewell to Feng Xiao, Long Xiaotian, and the others and left the outside world. When they returned to the pavilion, they found that the two maids who had retreated had returned. They were standing anxiously in the pavilion. When they saw Zhuan and Mu Chinchue appear out of thin air, the two maids sighed with a strange look in their eyes. They weren't stupid. They knew that the two of them should have gone to a small world. But what made the two maids feel strange was that the holy maiden had followed them into this small world. It was very dangerous to enter someone else's small world. If that person had evil intentions, the cultivator who entered the small world would be killed no matter how high his cultivation was. Why did the two of you suddenly barge in without my order? When Mu Chinchue left the outside world, She had put on her veil again. At this moment, when she saw the two maids, her pretty face was gloomy and she scolded them. The two maids quickly knelt down. One of the maids said, "Please forgive us, holy maiden. It's because the great guardian asked us to come in and report to you. He said that he had something important to discuss with you. If we were uneasy, we wouldn't dare to disobey the orders of the holy maiden." "The great guardian? Why did he come to me?" Muchin Shue frowned. "We don't know. The great guardian only said that it was urgent, so we—" The two maids trembled and didn't dare to look at Muchin Shue. "Get up. Let the great guardian in." Muchin Shue did not have any intention of blaming them. With a wave of her hand, the two maids retreated as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Although Muchin Shue was the holy maiden and only took orders from the demon Saint Dongwang Tai, the great enforcer was still the second most powerful person in the demon saint palace. Muchin Shue naturally had to give him some face. Zhuan's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect that the great guardian would actually come back to see the saint lady. He transmitted his voice to Muchin Shue and told her about how the great guardian had targeted him during this period of time. Muchin Shue was taken aback. Soon after, she was a little annoyed that the great protector was targeting Zhuo Wan for no reason. However, when she found out that Zhuo Wan was invited into the demon saint palace by the Godhorn protector, she revealed a look of relief. It was no secret in the demon saint palace that the great protector and the Godhorn protector didn't get along. Muchin Shue reminded Zhuan to be even more wary of the Godhorn protector. The latter was not a good person either. Soon, the maid led the great protector to the back garden. As soon as the great protector arrived, he saw Zhuan sitting next to Muchin Shue in the pavilion. He was startled at first, then subconsciously looked at Zhuan and asked, "Why are you here?" Zhuan sat down leisurely and glanced at the great protector. "Great protector, if you can come here, why can't I? The saint lady's name has long been well known in the demon realm. I have admired the saint lady for a long time and have specially come to visit the saint lady." Muchin Shue rolled her eyes at Zhuan, but didn't say anything. The great protector sneered. "You admire the saint lady? Let me tell you, you'd better not eat the meat of a swan. The saint lady is out of your league." Speaking of this, the great protector looked at Muchin Shue, and his face was suddenly full of smiles. He said, "Saint lady, this person has spoken disrespectfully to you as soon as he came. How could such a person stay in the Saint Lady Temple? Saint Lady should directly drive him out." Muchin Shue looked at the great protector indifferently and said, "Great protector, this is the Saint Lady Temple, not your hall of protectors. This person is my guest. Why should I drive him out? Also, don't you think it's a bit rude to ask me to drive him away as soon as you come?" Zhuan was her husband, and the great protector's tone was unfriendly to Zhuan as soon as he arrived. Muchin Shue naturally felt uncomfortable and spoke to the great protector very rudely. The great protector was suddenly speechless and a little confused. He was just talking about Zhuan. Why did the saint lady have such a big reaction? "Great protector, you should pay attention to what you say. You are not young anymore, and you have one foot in the coffin. Don't you know this?" Zhuan said with a smile. The great protector was furious. How could Zhuan say that? He was clearly saying that he was about to die. However, he saw that the saint lady did not react, so he suppressed his anger. This time, he came to the Saint Lady Temple to ask for a favor, so he naturally could not screw it up. Zhuan would have time to deal with this when he returned, so he was not in a hurry. "Great protector, why have you come to the Saint Lady Temple this time?" After Muchin Shue asked the great protector to sit down, she went straight to the point. The great protector rubbed his hands and said with a smile, "Actually, it's like this. I heard that the Saint Lady Temple has the 7-colored sacred land. I need the 7-colored sacred land urgently, so I came to ask for some." The Saint Lady raised her eyebrows and said, "The main function of the 7-colored sacred land is to repair the physical body. Great protector, who do you want to use the 7-colored sacred land for?" Zhuan's eyes flickered. He guessed that the great protector's purpose of asking for the 7-colored sacred land was to restore Su Yuan's physical body. "The physical body of a friend of mine has collapsed, and now only his divine soul is left, so he urgently needs a treasure to repair his physical body. This seven-colored sacred land is just right. I hope that the Saint Lady can give me some seven-colored sacred land for the sake of our friendship, the Great Protector said with a smile. I do have some seven-colored sacred land, but this thing is very valuable. I can't give it to you casually unless you exchange it with something of equal value. Muchinshue said lightly. The Great Protector nodded, took out a golden divine elixir, and handed it to Muchinshue. This divine elixir was a half-step sky-level divine elixir. Its medicinal properties were strong, and it exuded a blazing elixir pattern. It was difficult to look at directly. Muchinshue took it and observed it. She nodded, took out a palm-sized seven-colored sacred land, and handed it to the Great Protector. After the Great Protector received the seven-colored sacred land, he did not stay in the Saint Lady Temple for long. Instead, he left in a hurry. Of course, before the Great Protector left, he glared fiercely at Zhuowen. His eyes were extremely unfriendly. Husband, the Great Protector is not weak. He is already at the early stage of the fourth decay. You're only at the third decay. Don't fight him head-on in the future. You will be at a disadvantage. Muchinshue looked at Zhuowen worriedly. Chapter 35-69. After the Great Guardian obtained the Rainbow Sacred Land, he returned to the Guardian Hall, but his expression was not very good. Great Protector, you don't look happy. Did something happen to you? You didn't find a Rainbow Sacred Land? Su Yuan's divine soul was sitting on a futon in the center of the Guardian Hall. A physical body was floating in front of him. He could not help but ask in surprise when he saw the Great Guardian's unhappy expression. I got the Rainbow Sacred Land smoothly, mainly because I met that damn Guardian Zhua in the Saint Lady Temple. That guy is a lackey of the Divine Horn Guardian, and together with the Divine Horn Guardian, they have been targeting me everywhere. They even embarrass me in front of the Saint Lady. They are simply audacious. He is just a guest guardian of the Demon Saint Palace, and he dares to go against me. If I don't teach him a lesson, I am not worthy of being the Great Guardian of the Demon Saint Palace. The Great Guardian's face became extremely gloomy when he mentioned Zhuowen. Su Yuan's divine soul took the Rainbow Sacred Land. After hearing the Great Guardian's words, he said with a dignified expression, Great Guardian, you'd better not provoke Zhuowen. Ah, why? The Great Protector was shocked. How could the noble young master Su Yuan in front of him advise him not to provoke Zhuowen? This was really unreasonable, because he is not someone you can provoke. Su Yuan was silent for a moment, then sighed and said no more. Instead, he put the Rainbow Sacred Land into the physical body prototype in front of him and began to refine it. With the Rainbow Sacred Land, Su Yuan was confident that he could completely refine the physical body before the Demon Saint returned to the Demon Saint Palace. Of course, that was all. If he wanted to restore his strength, it would take a lot of time. The Great Protector was extremely depressed. What did Su Yuan mean by that? Zhuowen was someone he could not afford to provoke. Wasn't that guy just a guest guardian? However, he disapproved of Su Yuan's words. As far as he was concerned, Zhuowen didn't have any background at all. As the Grand Guardian, it wasn't easy for him to casually crush Zhuowen. Zhuowen spent a little more time with Muchinshue. He did not leave the Saint Lady Hall. Instead, he spent the night there. Of course, in Muchinshue's bedroom, all the servants had already been sent away. Only Zhuowen and Muchinshue were there. Husband, I suddenly want a child that belongs to both of us. On the luxurious bed, Muchinshue put her arms around Zhuowen's neck and said softly. In the past, Zhuowen and Muchinshue had made love many times. However, Muchinshue had never wanted to have children. Therefore, although they were husband and wife, they did not have children. But now, Muchinshue took the initiative to ask for a child, which surprised Zhuowen. Chinshue, you always said that it was too early. Why do you want a child now? Zhuowen kissed Muchinshue and said with a faint smile. Muchinshue's beautiful eyes stared at Zhuowen. Her eyes were filled with sadness as she said, We've experienced too many hardships, and we've been separated most of the time. I don't want to leave any regrets. If anything happens to us in the future, I'm afraid I'll regret it. So, I want to have a child as soon as possible. Zhuowen hugged Mu Qinshui and said in a soft voice, Qinshui, relax. In this starry sky, as long as I'm here, no one can separate us. Mu Qinshui revealed a sweet smile and threw herself into Zhuowen's body. The two of them made love to each other. On the luxurious bed, there was no end to the spring scenery. The next morning, everyone in the Demon Saint Palace was in a hurry, making all the preparations for the banquet. From the 5 great protectors to the ordinary disciples, everyone was busy with their work. The entire Monster Saint Palace was filled with an excited atmosphere. Everyone knew that Sir Monster Saint had come out of closed-door cultivation, and his cultivation had increased by another level. This was a matter of great joy. All the cultivators of the Monster Saint Palace were filled with pride. Many invitations had been sent out several days ago. Many powers had come from all over the monster domain to Monster Saint Heavenly City. There were even many hidden powers that couldn't help coming. Godhorn Protector. Why don't I see Protector Joie? The banquet will begin at noon, and Protector Joie is a guest protector, yet he isn't here. Does he even have the awareness of being a protector of the Monster Saint Palace? The great protector looked around and did not see Zhuowen's figure. He looked at the Godhorn Protector and spoke with a stern expression. The Godhorn Protector was a bit embarrassed. He had gone to Zhuowen's cave early in the morning to find Zhuowen, but he found that Zhuowen was not there. This surprised the Godhorn Protector. He wondered if Zhuowen had stayed out all night at the Saint Lady Hall. Thinking of this, the Godhorn Protector's expression became strange. He found it unbelievable. The Holy Maiden of the Demon Realm was the #1 genius of the Demon Realm. She was also the successor of the Demon Saint Palace. Her status in the Demon Realm and the Demon Saint Palace was extremely high. Otherwise, the Demon Saint Palace would not have specially built a Holy Maiden Palace for the Holy Maiden to live in. Moreover, the Saint Lady Hall was even more magnificent than their Guardia Hall. It could be seen how much the Monster Saint valued the Saint Lady. It was precisely because of the Holy Maiden's transcendent status and peerless beauty that countless young geniuses in the demon territory flocked to her. Moreover, there were countless pursuers that were innumerable. But in the end, no one could move the Saint Lady. She was even indifferent to those suitors and turned a blind eye to them. Among these young talents, there were many top geniuses, but no one could move the Saint Lady. However, Zhuowen and the Saint Lady had only met once, and that guy had spent the night at the Saint Lady Hall. The Saint Lady had acquiesced. This was incredible. Of course, the Godhorn Protector did not think too deeply. For example, when Zhuowen and the Saint Lady had reached the final stage of their relationship, he simply thought that Zhuowen had stayed in the Saint Lady Hall for one night. After all, the Saint Lady Hall was a building that belonged only to the Saint Lady. In the past, no male cultivator had ever stayed there for a night. Godhorn Protector, are you listening to me or not? The dissatisfied voice of the Great Guardian awakened the Godhorn Protector. The latter came back to his senses and had to bite the bullet and say, Guardian Joie should still be in the cave residence. I will go and call him. No need to look for him. I am here. Suddenly, a leisurely voice came. The Great Guardian, the Godhorn Protector, and the others immediately saw a figure slowly walking in the direction of the Saint Lady Hall. It was Zhuowen. You came from the Saint Lady Hall? You stayed in the Saint Lady Hall last night? The Great Guardian looked in the direction of Zhuowen and asked in surprise. The other protectors also looked incredulous. The Saint Lady's status in the Demon Saint Palace was too high. Her talent and strength were extremely terrifying. In the future, she was one of the best candidates for the Demon Saint Palace. They all had feelings for her, but they had never stayed in the Saint Lady Hall. However, this was just a guest protector. What did he do to stay in the Saint Lady Hall? Did the Saint Lady not kick him out? Last night, I discussed with the Saint Lady. The Saint Lady appreciated my Tao very much, so we discussed for one night. Before I knew it, a night had passed. Zhuowen said with a laugh. He would not say that he had spent the night in the same bed as the Saint Lady. Otherwise, the entire Demon Saint Palace would go crazy. Although the two of them were husband and wife, the people of the Demon Saint Palace did not know. Moreover, the Saint Lady had a great reputation in the Demon Saint Palace. If he said that, it would definitely cause a great uproar. Chapter 3570. What right do you have to be able to discuss the Tao with the Saintess for an entire night? She is a heaven-sent child, a direct disciple of the Monster Saint. She is only cultivated for a few thousand years and is already a second blight powerhouse. What qualifications do you have to discuss the Tao with the Saintess? I think you're just shameless enough to stay in the Saintess Temple. You really have no sense of shame. The other three protectors were very jealous. The great protector coldly snorted and said, "Protector Joie, the Saintess Temple is not a place where guest protectors like you can stay for long. If a monster saint finds out, you know the consequences." Joan sneered and said, "Great protector, I will take care of my own business. You'd better not meddle." Every time the great protector spoke to him with sarcasm, Joan had been unhappy for a long time. He just didn't want to care about it before. But that didn't mean that Joan was a persimmon that could be bullied at will. "Joan, how dare you? You're just a trivial guest protector. How dare you speak to the great protector in such a tone? You have no concept of respect at all. How presumptuous." A middle-aged man standing next to the great protector stood up and scolded Joan loudly. Joan was no stranger to this middle-aged man. He was one of the 5 protectors, Protector Lu Yen. He was ranked 4th among the 5 protectors, and his cultivation was at the mid-stage of the 3rd blight. Among the 5 protectors, he was the closest to the great protector and was a loyal supporter of the great protector. Okay. The monster saint will be back soon. Let's be harmonious." The divine horn protector spoke. He rubbed his temples and looked at Joan helplessly. He always felt that every time Joan appeared, he would always mess things up. Couldn't Joan be a little more tolerant? Thinking of this, the divine horn protector regretted inviting Joan to be a guest protector of the Monster Saint Palace. "Okay, I will give the divine horn protector face and let it go for the time being," the great protector said coldly. At this moment, a vast and terrifying aura suddenly shot out from outside the Monster Saint Heavenly City. This aura was too strong. Under this aura, the entire Demon Divine Heavenly City was like a small beast shivering in fear, not worth mentioning. All the cultivators in the Demon Divine Heavenly City raised their heads and looked into the distance. They saw a demonic light rapidly approaching. "This is Lord Demon Saint's aura. Hurry up and welcome him." The great protector was pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly stopped everyone in the Demon Saint Palace and rushed to the entrance. Divine Horn Great Enforcer came to Joan's side and sighed softly. "Brother Joa, Great Enforcer has great influence in the Demon Saint Palace. Some things are best to endure. Don't confront him directly." "Divine Horn Guardian, I know what to do. Let's go and take a look." Joan didn't give a direct answer, but instead walked towards the gate of the Demon Saint Palace. The godly Horn Guardian was a little annoyed by Joan's attitude, but there was nothing he could do. His mood was very complicated. Very quickly, the bewitching light descended in front of the Demon Saint Palace, revealing a burly middle-aged man. This man wore a long black silk robe, and his entire body was filled with a mysterious demonic aura. The powerful demonic aura surging from him caused many of the cultivators in the area to tremble in fear. This man was the master of the Demon Saint Palace, Dong Wang Tai. "Greetings, Lord Demon Saint." The great protector led everyone in hurriedly to greet Dong Wang Tai. Dong Wang Tai nodded. "Hongru, nothing happened while I was gone, right?" The great protector thought of the Gold Silk sect and the Divine Peng sect, as well as Su Yuan, who had lost her physical body. He hesitated for a moment. "Lord Demon Saint, a few major events have indeed happened recently. Hongru will personally report to you in a moment." The great protector said respectfully. I'm not worried about you. Also, the banquet can begin at noon. Me breaking through to the 5th blight is a joyous occasion for the demon realm." Dongwang Tai laughed loudly, then entered the Demon Saint Palace, escorted by the Great Protector and the others. Zhuowen silently looked at Dongwang Tai's back. Dongwang Tai's cultivation had indeed reached the 5th blight, but compared to Daoist 3 purities and Wu Taiji, he was still lacking by quite a bit. After all, 3 purities and Wu Taiji had both broken through to the 5th blight a very long time ago, especially 3 purities. He had been at the peak of the 5th blight for a very long time, but later suffered heavy injuries, causing his cultivation to drop. However, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. 3 purities was still the strongest person in the starry sky. Time gradually passed, and more people entered the Demon Saint Palace. Those who could enter the Demon Saint Palace were all representatives of the top factions in the demon realm. Zhuowen accompanied the God-Horn Protector at the entrance, constantly greeting the representatives of the major factions. Protector Zhuo, I didn't think we'd meet again. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. Zhuowen raised his head and saw an old woman greeting him with a smile. It's actually old ancestor Xianya of the Gold Silk sect. She's an early 4th blight expert, definitely one of the strongest in the demon realm. Who is this young man? He seems to be very familiar with old ancestor Xianya. Is he also a 4th blight expert? The surrounding people discussed animatedly as they looked at Zhuowen in surprise. At first, Zhuowen was too low-key and his aura was very calm, so he didn't attract anyone's attention. But when Xianya greeted him, he immediately became the center of attention. Zhuowen felt everyone's gaze and smiled bitterly. Just as he was about to greet Xianya, another familiar voice rang out and interrupted his greeting. Haha, Protector Zhuo, you're still a protector. Why are you sitting at the entrance and greeting people? Demon Saint Palace isn't proper. Is there no one else here? The voice was clear and tender and could be heard from far away. Zhuowen looked over and saw that it was a cultivator who looked like a child. He was slowly walking over with a group of people. This person wasn't unfamiliar to Zhuowen. It was old ancestor Hung Wu of the Divine Peng sect. Whether it was Hung Wu or Xianya, both of their auras were much more vigorous than before. Clearly, the pills Zhuowen gave them had allowed them to completely consolidate their realm, and their cultivation had improved slightly. It's old ancestor Hung Wu of the Divine Peng sect. He's also an early 4th blight expert. Just like old ancestor Xianya, he's one of the main experts at this banquet. This person actually knows old ancestor Hung Wu. Just who is this guy? The surrounding people were in an uproar as they discussed animatedly. Whether it was Hung Wu or Xianya, they stood at the top of the demon realm. They were usually elusive. So many people didn't have the chance to befriend them. Of course, even if someone did encounter them, they wouldn't have the qualifications to befriend them if they weren't strong enough. However, this unknown young man standing at the entrance actually knew both Xianya and Hung Wu at the same time. And from the looks of it, Xianya and Hung Wu seemed to hold this person in high regard, causing everyone to be even more curious about Zhuowen. Divine Horn Protector was even more stunned. Xianya and Hung Wu's cultivation was higher than his, and as old ancestors of their respective sects, their status was even higher than the head protector. Even Sir Demon Saint had to treat them with caution. Chapter 3571. After greeting Zhuowen warmly, Xianya and Hung Wu entered the Demon Saint Palace. Once they were far away, the Divine Horn Guardian asked, Guardian Zhuo, what's going on? Are you acquainted with the patriarchs of the Golden Silk sect and Divine Peng sect? Yes, we are friends. Zhuowen nodded. In other words, after you went to the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, the patriarchs of the Golden Silk sect and Divine Peng sect temporarily withdrew from the Demon Saint Heavenly City because of you, the Divine Horn Guardian said in disbelief. When he heard that the Golden Silk sect and Divine Peng sect really withdrew from the Demon Saint Heavenly City, he was extremely shocked. He did not believe a single word Zhuowen said at that time. In his opinion, the Grand Guardian's edict was not that powerful to make the patriarchs of the Golden Silk sect and Divine Peng sect agree to withdraw. Now he knew that the reason the two sects withdrew was all because of this young man in front of him. Ah, you can say that. Zhuowen was stunned. He did not expect the divine Horn Guardian's imagination to be so wild. He could not possibly say that he defeated Xianya and Hongwu and used his powerful strength to force them to withdraw from the Demon Saint Heavenly City. Even if he said that, the divine Horn Guardian would not believe him. Soon, the representatives of the various factions in the Demon Saint Heavenly City had all entered the Demon Saint Palace. Zhuowen and the divine Horn Guardian also finished their work and headed to the banquet. The Demon Saint Palace's banquet was held in the central plaza of the Demon Saint Palace. When Zhuowen and the divine Horn Guardian arrived at the central plaza, they saw rows of exquisite tables arranged in the plaza. One by one, beautiful female cultivators with graceful figures came in with beautiful delicacies and placed them on the table in an orderly manner. At this moment, most of the seats in the plaza were occupied. The closer one's seat was to the front of the plaza, the more powerful the faction it belonged to. Among them, the upper echelons of the Demon Saint Palace sat at the table at the very front. They were on equal footing with the representatives of the true powers of the demon realm. In the middle of the square, there was a high platform with a beautiful seat on it. Everyone knew that the seat belonged to Dong Wang Tai. However, Dong Wang Tai had not appeared yet, so his seat was still empty. There was a smaller seat beside Dong Wang Tai, and a beautiful woman with a veil over her face was sitting there. This woman was none other than the renowned Holy Maiden of the demon realm. Zhuowen glanced at the saintess on the high platform. The saintess seemed to have sensed something as well and looked at Zhuowen. Their eyes met, and both of them smiled knowingly. Zhuowen did not come forward to greet him. Instead, he followed the godly Horn Guardian to the front. The protectors of the Demon Saint Palace could be said to have a very high status in the Demon Saint Palace. Although Zhuowen was a guest protector, he was still considered a protector, so he was on equal footing with the 5 protectors. However, when the godly Horn Guardian and Zhuowen came to the front seat, there was only 1 seat left out of the original 6. In addition to the Great Guardian and the other 3 Guardians, there was also a young man that Zhuowen did not know who occupied 5 of the seats. The young man's aura was not strong. He was only at the early stage of the first blight, and he was sitting in the seat that originally belonged to Zhuowen. The godly Horn Guardian naturally saw the young man. He transmitted a message to Zhuowen and told him that the young man was a nephew of the Great Guardian, named Sun Hong. Among the younger generation of the Demon Saint Palace, Sun Hong's talent was extremely high. He was a genius second only to the saintess. Moreover, he also said that Sun Hong was also a fanatical pursuer of the saintess. He had publicly said that the saintess could only be his woman. "Oh, godly Horn Guardian, you're finally here. Come and sit down." The Great Guardian closed his eyes slightly and did not look at Zhuowen and the godly Horn Guardian at all. Instead, it was Lu Yin who greeted the godly Horn Guardian. Of course, whether it was intentional or not, Lu Yin did not look at Zhuowen at all. It was as if she was deliberately ignoring him. As for the young man who had occupied Zhuowen's seat, he looked at Zhuowen with a mocking gaze. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a subtle smile. The godly Horn Guardian frowned slightly and ignored Lu Yin's voice. Instead, he looked at the Great Guardian who was resting with his eyes closed and said, "Great Guardian, the 6 seats here are reserved for the Guardians. I'm afraid it's inappropriate for Sun Hong to sit here." The Great Guardian slowly opened his eyes and did not look at Zhuowen. Instead, he stared at the godly Horn Guardian and said, "Godly Horn, our Demon Saint Palace only has 5 Guardians, but there are 6 seats here. In any case, there is an extra seat. Sun Hong's talent is good, and his temperament is even better. His future achievements will not be below mine. Isn't it just right for him to sit in the extra seat?" When the godly Horn Guardian wanted to say something, the Great Guardian waved his hand impatiently and said, "Hurry up and sit down. Sir Demon Saint will soon enter the arena. It's improper for you to keep standing here." The godly Horn Guardian felt the Great Guardian's cold and unfriendly gaze and felt his scalp tingle. He glanced at Zhuowen beside him and could only helplessly sit in the last seat. Zhuowen stood alone at the side. The chief protector and the others simply ignored Zhuowen. It was as if Zhuowen did not exist. Guardian Zhuo, you don't seem to have a seat. How about you sit with me? My place is very spacious. Suddenly, a crisp voice rang out. There was a row of tables next to the 5 guardians. They were almost at the same level as the 5 guardians. The people sitting here were clearly big figures from the true big factions of the demon realm. The one who greeted Zhuowen was a child who looked like a porcelain doll. Don't look at the child's cute face. Many of the surrounding cultivators revealed looks of dread. This was because this child was the ancestor of the divine Peng sect, Hung Wu. It was said that he had broken through and reached the early stage of the 4th Heaven's Blight. With such cultivation, other than the Demon Saint Palace, no other faction in the demon realm could suppress him. On the other hand, Zhuowen looked very ordinary. Everyone was a little surprised that someone of Hung Wu's status would greet a cultivator who looked very ordinary so warmly. However, there were some astute people who faintly guessed that Zhuowen was not a simple person. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a 4th Heaven's Blight cultivator like Hung Wu to greet him so warmly without treating him as an outsider. Guardian Zhuo, Hung Wu's seat is filled with stinky men. How about you come to my seat? My Hongwan's beauty is very famous in the demon realm. Just when everyone was surprised by how much Hung Wu valued Zhuowen, an old woman sitting in the same row as Hung Wu also opened her mouth and warmly greeted Zhuowen. Chapter 3572. Holy shit, that's Golden Silk Sect's ancestor Xianya, a 4th Blight expert. She's even more famous than Hung Wu. This guy actually knows an expert like Xianya. Who the hell is this guy? Heavens, Hong Wan is the goddess of my dreams. It seems like ancestor Xianya wants to matchmake this guy and Hong Wan. Isn't this like sticking a flower in cow dung? Many cultivators who once admired Hong Wan had their eyes turn red. Their gazes towards Zhuowen became extremely unfriendly. At the same time, Zhuowen felt an extremely cold gaze on his back, causing his hairs to stand on end. He secretly glanced at the saintess on the high platform. Although she maintained a smile, he could feel the chill in her eyes. The chief protector, who had been resting with his eyes closed, abruptly opened his eyes and looked at Zhuowen, Xianya, and Hung Wu in surprise. He didn't expect this Zhuowen to know Xianya and Hung Wu. Thinking back to how this kid easily made the Golden Silk Sect and Divine Peng Sect retreat from Demon Divine Heavenly City, the head enforcer's face turned ugly. He knew he had been played by this Zhuowen. At the same time, the head enforcer was also a little apprehensive. This kid knew Xianya and Hung Wu, so he wasn't a simple person. But the head enforcer wasn't particularly worried. This kid was only a guest enforcer of their Demon Divine Palace. He was the head enforcer. As the saying goes, a higher rank can crush people to death. This kid had no choice but to listen to his orders. Zhuowen smiled embarrassedly. Many thanked for fellow Taoist Hung Wu and fellow Taoist Xianya's kindness. There's a spot for me here, so I won't take up your spot. With that, Zhuowen looked at the provocative Sun Hong and said indifferently, Sun Hong, I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't scram, I'll make you scram. Sun Hong was stunned. The head enforcer and the other elders were also stunned. No one expected Zhuowen to suddenly become so domineering. He actually dared to make Sun Hong scram. In terms of status, Sun Hong was indeed inferior to a guest enforcer like Zhuowen. But one had to know that Sun Hong's backer was the head enforcer. Zhuowen directly contradicting him was equivalent to contradicting the head enforcer. Sun Hong looked at the head enforcer and snorted, Zhuowen, there's no place for you here. The head enforcer made it clear that this spot is mine. When did it become yours? Know your place. Hurry up and scram to the back. There are plenty of seats there. Zhuowen looked at Sun Hong indifferently, causing the latter's scalp to go numb. However, Sun Hong still braced himself and said, What right do you have to tell me to scram? You are just a guest guardian. What right do you have to sit here? 3 breaths of time is up. If you don't scram, I'll make you scram. Zhuowen simply ignored Sun Hong. His right hand grabbed Sun Hong's collar and fiercely flung him out. The energy in Sun Hong's body surged as the power of the first decay erupted. He wanted to stop Zhuowen. But very quickly, he discovered that his power was completely frozen at this moment, and he couldn't move at all. He could only watch as Zhuowen grabbed his collar and threw him out like he was throwing trash. Bang! Sun Hong was thrown to an empty space outside the square by Zhuowen, creating a huge crater in the ground. In the entire square, many cultivators who were attending the banquet were stunned. They looked at Zhuowen in confusion. At this moment, Zhuowen became the focus of everyone's attention. Zhuowen's gaze was calm. Under everyone's gazes, he slowly walked to Sun Hong's seat and sat down. F***CK. This guy is really arrogant. Sun Hong is the nephew of the great enforcer, Sun Hongru. This guy threw Sun Hong out like trash. This is a slap to the great enforcer's face. I heard that this guy is called Zhuowen. He's a new guest enforcer of the Demon Saint Palace. He's just a guest enforcer, but he's so arrogant. He's definitely the most arrogant guest enforcer I've ever seen. The Divine Horn Enforcer, who was sitting in his seat, rubbed his temples. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew that Zhuowen had completely offended the Great Enforcer, and this would also implicate him. Thinking of this, the Divine Horn Enforcer quickly sent a message to Zhuowen. Enforcer Zhuowen, you're too impulsive. Now help Sun Hong up and give up your seat. Then apologize in person. I'll put in a good word for you in front of the Great Enforcer. Zhuowen didn't even look at the Divine Horn Enforcer. He had been disappointed in the latter for a long time. The Great Enforcer had stepped on Zhuowen's head, and he still wanted Zhuowen to endure it. Did he really think that the Great Enforcer could cover the sky with one hand? Should Zhuowen submit to the Great Enforcer? Divine Horn Enforcer, you're too cowardly. And now the Great Enforcer is pointing at my nose and embarrassing me. Why should I apologize to him? After replying, Zhuowen no longer paid attention to the Divine Horn Enforcer. Bang! At the same time, the Great Enforcer slammed his right hand on the table. He stood up and stared coldly at Zhuowen. Enforcer Zhuo, what do you mean by this? You dare to attack me in front of me? Are you looking down on me, the Great Protector? The Great Protector's voice was loud and clear. His voice was filled with coldness. At this moment, the whole square quieted down. The cultivators sitting far away also noticed the commotion. Xinya and Hengwu looked at each other and smiled as if they were watching a good show. They were well aware of Zhuowen's strength. Back then, both of them had suffered a loss at the hands of Zhuowen. Moreover, this Great Protector's strength was at most similar to theirs. If he were to clash with Zhuowen head-on, he would probably be at a disadvantage. On the high platform, the Saintess suddenly stood up and said in a clear voice, Great Enforcer. Today is the day of the banquet. Personal grievances should be left for after the banquet. Otherwise, it will be a joke to others. The Great Enforcer's eyes were gloomy. He cupped his hands and said, Saintess, you saw just now. This Zhuowen attacked first. He's already bullied me to the point of my nose. He's already offending his superior. If I don't teach him a lesson today, where will my dignity as the Great Enforcer go? Bending the law for personal gain, forming cliques, and being jealous of talents. What dignity does a Great Enforcer like you have? Zhuowen sneered. Impudent. How dare you speak to me like this? If I don't punish you today, I will have wasted my years as the Great Enforcer of the Demon Saint Palace. Today, you and I will fight in the life and death arena. I will personally clean up the house. The Great Enforcer said gloomily. What? The life and death arena? Isn't the Great Enforcer going too far? Once on the life and death arena, there will be a battle of life and death. With the Great Enforcer's cultivation, this guest enforcer won't die, for sure. The crowd was in an uproar. They felt that the Great Enforcer had gone too far, but no one came out to refute. After all, the Great Enforcer was a senior executive in the Demon Saint Palace. Apart from the Demon Saint, no one had more seniority than him. Even the Saintess had no right to interfere. Chapter 3573. The moment Zhuowen agreed to the Great Guardian's request, the surrounding area fell silent. Originally, Everyone thought that Zhuan would definitely find all kinds of reasons and excuses to refuse and not agree to the Great Guardian's request for a life and death battle. But now, Zhuan had agreed so readily. Many people did not expect this and fell into silence. The Great Guardian was also startled. He was also a little surprised. He had not expected Zhuan to agree so readily. As for the saintess on the high platform, when she saw Zhuan agree so readily, her beautiful eyes revealed a look of worry. She had made up her mind that once Zhuan showed signs of being defeated on the life and death arena, she would immediately take action. Although her cultivation was only at the second blight, and she was no match for the Great Guardian, she knew that even if she took action, the Great Guardian would not really kill her. After all, she was the saintess of the Demon Saint Palace, and was the person that the Demon Saint valued the most. Humph! The banquet is about to begin. After the banquet is over, the life and death battle will begin. You should cherish the time you have left. The Great Guardian looked at the sky and said indifferently. In his eyes, Zhuan was already a dead man. Zhuan's eyes were indifferent as he said, "The time before the banquet begins is enough for me to get rid of you on the life and death arena. Let's go to the life and death arena now." When Zhuan's words came out, everyone was in an uproar. No one expected that Zhuan would be in such a hurry to go to the life and death arena. Wasn't he in a hurry to court death? The Great Guardian was startled and immediately grinned. "It seems that you are in a hurry to reincarnate. In that case, I will fulfill your wish. The life and death arena is not far from here. Follow me." With that, the Great Guardian stood up and walked to the east side of the central square. Zhuan remained silent. He slowly stood up and followed closely behind the first protector. The other protectors followed closely behind him as well. The Divine Horn Guardian sighed and shook his head secretly. He knew that Zhuan was too impulsive. He actually agreed to a life-and-death duel with the Great Guardian. He was overestimating himself. He knew that Zhuan was at the third heaven's blight, but the headlaw enforcer was at the fourth heaven's blight. There was a difference of a large realm between them. No matter how heaven-defying this child was, he couldn't be the headlaw enforcer's match. "I'm starting to regret recruiting him into the Demon Saint Palace." The Godhorn Protector muttered to himself. Because of what Zhuan had done, the Great Protector would have even more reasons to mess with him. Zhuan's death was one thing, but it had also harmed him. Thinking of this, the Godly Horn Guardian could not help but blame Zhuan. As for Sun Hong, he had already been helped up. His injuries were very serious, especially the meridians in his body that had been destroyed by a strange power. If he wanted to completely recover, he had no idea how much time and materials he would need. "Take me there. I want to see this Zhuan being killed by the Great Protector with my own eyes." Sun Hong's eyes were red, and he roared as if he had lost his mind. The life and death ring was indeed not far from the central square. After walking out of the square, it took about a few minutes to reach it. The life and death ring was very large, and it was surrounded by extremely powerful restrictions. Generally, the disciples of the Demon Saint Palace would come to the life and death ring for a fight to the death when they wanted to use force to resolve conflict. On the life and death ring, it would only end when one side died. Otherwise, they would have to keep fighting. This was the rule of the life and death ring. The Great Protector removed the restrictions around the life and death ring and jumped onto the life and death ring. His body was as straight as a spear as he looked down at Zhuan and said, "Zhuan, why aren't you coming up to die?" Zhuan walked up the stairs of the life and death ring step by step and finally stopped in front of the Great Protector. Whoosh! The instant the two stood on the life and death ring, the Great Protector threw out the formation flag in his hand. Instantly, the restrictions around the life and death ring rippled violently. Then, the restrictions closed again. The Holy Maiden stood at the edge of the life and death ring and looked at the closed restrictions. Her pretty face changed slightly, and she said to the Great Protector in a deep voice, "Great Protector, the life and death ring's restrictions are not allowed to close during the life and death battle. You're violating the rules." The Great Protector was indifferent and said indifferently, Holy Maiden is worrying too much. Usually, the life and death battles are basically the disciples of the palace. Those are all small fights, and the battle ripples produced are not very strong. But Protector Joie and I are different. At the same time, the energy ripples transmitted from a battle between half-step breaking heaven realm powerhouses are extremely terrifying. The life and death ring might not be able to withstand it. This restriction is also for the sake of precaution, to prevent the energy from shooting out violently and injuring the spectators. The Holy Maiden frowned slightly, and her beautiful eyes looked at Juon, revealing a worried expression. She knew the reason why the Great Protector did this. This was to prevent her from interfering in the life and death battle. However, after seeing Juon's indifferent expression, she was slightly relieved. Juon was her husband after all. She understood Juon very well and knew that Juon would never casually do something that he was not confident in. Since Juon agreed to the life and death battle so readily, he probably had a certain chance of winning. Even if he really was not the Great Protector's match, Juon should also have a corresponding escape method. Oomph. This Juon is really overestimating his abilities. Not only does he dare to provoke the Great Protector, he even publicly wants to have a life and death battle with the Great Protector. If this isn't courting death, what is? Protector Lu Yin crossed her arms over her chest and said with a sneer. Around the life and death ring, many onlookers also looked at the two people on the life and death ring calmly. They also felt that this Juon was too impulsive. One had to know that there were not many Fourth Blight powerhouses in the monster domain. The Great Protector was at the early stage of the Fourth Blight and was definitely one of the top powerhouses in the monster domain. Although they couldn't see through this Juon's specific cultivation, this person could only be a guest protector of the Monster Saint Palace. Obviously, his strength was very ordinary. Such a person challenging the Great Protector was no different from courting death. Sun Hong, who was supported by his subordinates, glared fiercely at Juon on the life and death ring. He was imagining the scene of Juon being instantly killed by the Great Protector. Below the ring, except for the cultivators of Golden Silk Sect and Divine Pung Sect, no one was optimistic about Juon. The Great Protector is in big trouble. He actually dared to provoke little brother Joie. Hung Wu crossed his arms and grinned as he muttered in a low voice. Back then, because he underestimated Juon, he was beaten half to death by Juon. If it weren't for Juon showing mercy, he would have already died. Xianya looked at the Great Protector with a pitiful look. She knew very well that the Great Protector's fate might be even more miserable than Hung Wu's. You seem to be very calm. In fact, I'm also very curious. Where did you get the confidence to agree to a life and death battle with me? The Great Protector stood opposite of Juon and was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he asked indifferently, I should say, where did you get the confidence to have a life and death battle with me? Juon responded indifferently. Chapter 3574. The Great Protector is about to make his move. Everyone in the audience also felt the terrifying aura coming from the Great Protector's body. They all cheered up and looked at the two people on the stage with excitement, looking forward to the next battle. This Juon should be killed in seconds. Protector Lu Yin crossed her arms and sneered disdainfully. The Saintess was anxious. Although she believed that Juon would have a backup plan, she still couldn't help but worry. After all, the Great Protector's cultivation was much higher than Juon's, so it was inevitable that something unexpected would happen. Bang! At this moment, the Great Protector on the stage had already attacked. He shot out like an arrow and arrived in front of Juon in the blink of an eye. A terrifying aura as vast as the ocean spread out in all directions, and then like a hurricane, it crushed Juon's body. Juon stood in place, motionless. The storm formed by the endless pressure swept over his body, blowing his long hair and fluttering his clothes. He was like a long spear, standing in the wind, majestic and unyielding. When the Great Protector's attack was almost within reach, a mysterious and vast purple light suddenly burst out from Juon's body. The purple light swept out like a storm, as if purple stars were bursting out. Zhuan's aura also rose at this moment, and in an instant, it suppressed the Great Protector's vast aura. At the same time, Zhuan had already thrown out a punch, and a purple light soared into the sky, as if it was going to pierce through the sky. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the two fists collided, and a series of muffled thunder-like sounds rang out. It was continuous, as if it was endless. Dang, dang, dang. The Great Protector let out a muffled groan and retreated a few steps. He steadied himself and stared at Zhuan, who stood as still as a spear. At this moment, Zhuan's whole body was exuding a purple light. Even his black hair turned into an illusory purple under the purple light. You are only at the early stage of the third blight. How can you have such a powerful aura and power? Chief Enforcer was shocked. He stared at the young man in front of him in disbelief. When Zhuan attacked, he did notice that Zhuan was only at the early stage of the third blight, but whether it was aura or power, Zhuan was above him. This was too unbelievable. Was this really an early stage third blight cultivator? This was too heaven-defying. Countless people below the stage were also taken aback. They were all a mess. Early stage fourth blight and early stage third blight were an entire major realm apart. Originally, early stage fourth blight cultivators should completely crush early stage third blight cultivators. But now, this advantage was completely reversed. Instead, the early stage of the third blight had the upper hand. Was this world crazy? Protector Lu Yin, who was watching the show with her arms crossed, couldn't help glaring at Yang Kai. Sun Hong, whose eyes were filled with malevolence, was completely dumbfounded. The holy maiden, who was originally worried, let out a sigh of relief. She was a little surprised that Zhuan was so strong. At the same time, she blamed this guy for not telling her the truth last night. Great Guardian, have you not eaten? A dignified fourth blight cultivator only has this much strength? This is too weak. Just when everyone, including the Great Protector, was stunned, Zhuan opened his mouth. What he said made everyone feel dizzy. This guy was too cocky. You're courting death. Just now, I didn't use my full strength, allowing your sneak attack to succeed. Now, you won't be so lucky. This old master will use his full strength and kill you in one move. The Great Guardian was furious. He took a step forward and attacked with all his strength. It had to be said that the Great Guardian was indeed strong. At least, he was stronger than Hung Wu. Obviously, the Great Guardian was not far from the middle stage of the fourth blight. Pung pung pung. In just an instant, the two fought again. In the blink of an eye, they had already exchanged dozens of moves. The aftermath of the battle between the two was too terrifying. The surrounding barriers trembled violently, as if they would collapse at any moment. Zhuan threw a punch. Purple light filled the sky, and instantly, the Great Guardian was forced to retreat. At the same time, Zhuan took out a golden claw. It was the golden-winged rock claw. He had obtained it from Hung Wu. The golden-winged rock claw's power was comparable to a half-step heaven-breaking divine artifact. The Great Guardian clearly didn't expect Zhuan to suddenly use the golden-winged rock claw. Zhuan grabbed empty air, and the golden claw blasted into his abdomen, penetrating it and annihilating it. Pucci! The Great Guardian spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. He looked at the golden claw in Zhuan's hand in horror. The blood on it was all his. The Great Guardian's face was pale. This is the golden-winged rock claw of the God Peng sect. How did you get it? Naturally, it was given to me by the God Peng sect's old ancestor, Hung Wu. Our relationship is very good. In order to prevent me from being bullied, he gave it to me, Zhuan said casually. At the same time, he was shocked at the power of the golden-winged rock claw. It could actually injure an early-stage fourth blight expert like the Great Guardian. After Zhuan finished speaking, everyone's gazes simultaneously fell onto Hung Wu, who was below the stage. Hung Wu's face turned red. He couldn't say that he had been beaten up by Zhuan and that the golden-winged rock claw had been stolen by him. Cough, cough. This golden-winged rock claw was indeed given to Great Guardian Zhuo by me. Great Guardian Zhuo and I are like brothers, so I naturally can't mistreat him. Therefore, I gave him this golden-winged rock claw to protect himself. Hung Wu's expression was calm, but his heart was pained. This golden-winged rock claw was the strongest divine artifact passed down by the god Peng Sek's ancestors. He was originally going to shamelessly ask Zhuowen for it after the banquet ended. But now that Zhuowen had said so, no matter how thick his face was, he wouldn't ask for it from Zhuowen. Zhuowen floated in midair and once again used the golden-winged rock claw to smash towards the chief guardian. At the same time, Zhuowen suddenly flashed out and descended before the chief guardian like a bolt of lightning. Bang, bang, bang. With Zhuowen's golden-winged rock claw, the great guardian was not a match at all. He was in a state of being beaten up. Everyone below the stage was dumbfounded. Didn't the great guardian say that he would use his full strength to kill Zhuowen in one move? What was the situation now? Zhuowen wasn't killed, and he was about to be killed. Pucci. The great guardian spat out another mouthful of blood and retreated. His body was already dripping with blood, and his aura was weak. He had suffered a very serious injury. Zhuowen, I want you to die. The great guardian roared angrily, and his aura surged instantly. He actually burned his essence blood and was going to fight Zhuowen to the death. Zhuowen sneered and used the torch dragon's eye to find the great guardian's weakness. Then, he summoned his clone and merged with his original body. His aura surged instantly. Zhuowen attacked again and clashed head-on with the great guardian who was burning his essence blood. Then, the great guardian's body burst into a bloody mist, and he fell from the sky in a sorry state. He was extremely dispirited. Your aura has become stronger again. What's your cultivation level? The great guardian crawled up with difficulty and knelt on the ground. He raised his head and looked at Zhuowen, who was walking towards him slowly. He ignored the blood in his mouth and asked in disbelief. Chapter 3575. At this moment, the entire arena was silent as everyone's eyes involuntarily fell on the life or death ring and the figure standing straight up like a javelin. The great protector of Monster Saint Palace, who held the highest authority in Monster Saint Palace, was lifted up like a dead dog by this person's hand, unable to resist at all. This contrast was so great that it made everyone feel like they were being tossed in the wind. This great protector, he actually lost? Protector Lu Yin, who had her arms crossed in front of her chest and was full of confidence, almost bit her tongue when she saw this scene, her eyes bulging. Sun Hong's legs went soft, and if it weren't for the people around him supporting him, he would have already fallen to his knees. The saintess let out a sigh of relief and gave Zhuowen a slightly reproachful look. This guy's strength is so great. Why didn't he tell me last night? However, seeing that Zhuowen was safe and sound and had even defeated the great protector, the saintess felt very happy and proud for Zhuowen. Hung Wu, Xinya, and the others all showed knowing expressions. After all, they had personally witnessed Zhuowen's strength and had not been optimistic about the great protector's chances from the beginning. Protector Zhuo, don't kill me. I am the great protector of Monster Saint Palace. If you kill me, you will offend the entire Monster Saint Palace. The great protector weakly begged for mercy as he finally felt fear in his heart. You and I have both stepped onto the life or death ring. If I don't kill you, how can I end this life or death battle? Zhuowen taunted. The great protector felt the murderous intent in Zhuowen's eyes and shuddered, the fear in his heart reaching an extreme. He knew that this young man in front of him really wanted to kill him. Asterisk Pucci. Asterisk Zhuowen's right hand surged with a terrifying, shattering divine force and poured it into the great protector's body through his neck. In an instant, the great protector's entire body exploded into a bloody mist. Asterisk Peng. Asterisk, however, after this bloody mist exploded, it immediately floated away and reformed into the great protector's figure. However, the great protector's face was extremely pale and his breathing was rapid. The aura on his body was extremely weak. A fourth blight cultivator's life force was even more terrifying than a third blight cultivator. Back then, Zhuan had to spend a lot of effort to kill a third blight cultivator, so this fourth blight cultivator was naturally not so easy to kill. However, Zhuan's shattering divine force, the Great Protector, was extremely uncomfortable and was struggling to resist the shattering divine force in his body. The Great Guardian didn't dare to stay on the life and death platform for too long. He waved an array flag and tried to undo the array formation restriction around the life and death platform. The array flag shot out, and the powerful array restriction around the life and death ring immediately disappeared. The head protector quickly rushed out. However, when the protector arrived at the edge of the life and death arena, a powerful ripple of formations suddenly extended over. Afterwards, the protector was directly repelled by the ripple. He spat out a mouthful of blood and became even more dispirited and dispirited. The Great Protector looked at the Great Protector in disbelief. This is a trap formation, and it's a half-step heaven breaker formation. Why is there a trap formation on the life and death stage? Immediately after, the Great Guardian heard the crisp sound of footsteps. He abruptly turned around and saw Zhuan when leisurely walking over with a mocking smile on his face. You set up this trap formation? You're also a half-step heaven breaker formation master? The Great Protector thought of a possibility and said in disbelief. Zhuan did not answer. Instead, he took out his golden rock claw and attacked the Great Protector again. This trap formation was indeed set up by Zhuan. He knew very well that the formation around the life and death stage was controlled by the Great Protector. If the Great Protector saw that the situation was bad and ran away, it was very likely that he would use the formation around the life and death stage to stop him. Therefore, just in case, Zhuan secretly had his doppelganger set up a top-level trapping formation in the Great World. Then, when his doppelganger merged with his true body, he set up the trapping formation at the edge of the life and death ring. However, he did not expect that it would come in handy now. Splat! The Great Protector was pierced through by the golden rock claw again, and his entire body collapsed again. His strength had dropped too much, and he was no match for Zhuan at all. If this continued, he would eventually be exhausted to death by Zhuan. Meanwhile, the countless people below the stage were all stunned when they saw the Great Protector being beaten to the point of collapse again and again. They had never seen the Great Protector in such a sorry state before. In the past, the Great Protector had always been majestic and lofty. However, now, he was being beaten to such a state by a cultivator who was a major cultivation stage lower than him. It was simply too tragic. When the Great Protector's body collapsed again under the golden rock claw, his body showed no signs of reforming. He had already been exhausted to the point where he could no longer reform his body. A ball of light shot out from the Great Protector's collapsed body, and then it quickly fled out of the life and death stage. Zhuan knew that it was the Great Protector's soul, but he was not in a hurry. He had set up a trap array around the life and death stage. So where could the Great Protector escape to? In the end, he could only wander around the life and death stage. However, soon, Zhuan's expression changed slightly because he felt a vast and boundless aura surging out from the depths of the Demon Saint Palace. Then, in the sky above the life and death stage, a huge 9-story pagoda fell and smashed into the trap array on the life and death stage. Crack! 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 The trap array trembled violently and made a strange sound that made one's hair stand on end. Then, a crack appeared at the top of the trap array. The Great Protector's soul, which was originally wandering around the edge of the trap array, quickly flew over and entered the 9-story pagoda. After the Great Protector's soul was taken away, the 9-story pagoda did not continue to attack the trap array. Instead, it flew back into the sky with a whoosh and gradually became smaller, finally falling into a palm. Zhuan stood in the dimly lit entrapment array. He raised his head and looked at the black-robed, middle-aged man in the sky with narrowed eyes. Countless cultivators below the stage also noticed the scene just now. They looked up at the sky and exclaimed one after another. Lord Demon, Saint has come out. That was a 9-story pagoda just now, right? Its power is really terrifying. Just one hit, and it blasted a hole in a half-step heaven breaker trap array. As expected of the Demon Saint's most powerful divine artifact. Now that Lord Demon Saint has appeared, it seems like the Great Protector's life is saved. I wonder how the Demon Saint will deal with Juon. After all, he almost killed the Great Protector. It shouldn't be. After all, Juon and the Great Protector were fighting head-on. Both sides were willing, so it's inevitable that there would be casualties in a battle. The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone subconsciously looked at Juon on the stage, their eyes full of pity. They knew that if the Demon Saint really blamed him, this child would not be able to bear the consequences. The Saintess also had a worried expression on her face. She gritted her teeth and made up her mind. If the Demon Saint really blamed Juon, she must protect Juon. Although Juon was very powerful, and even the Great Protector was no match for him, the Demon Saint was different. The Demon Saint was a big shot who had survived from ancient times until now and had just broken through to the 5th blight. His strength was not something the Great Protector could compare to. Chapter 35:76. Hung Wu and Xianya's expressions turned solemn, their eyes filled with dread. The two of them could be considered to be at the top of the demon realm. However, they knew that in front of the Beast Overlord, their cultivation was still insufficient. Even if they thought highly of Juon, they didn't think that Juon would be a match for the Beast Overlord. Below the stage, many cultivators showed a fanatical look of worship when they saw the Beast Overlord. Dongwang Tai held the 9-story pagoda in his right hand. Then, a ball of light appeared at the bottom of the pagoda. Inside the ball of light was a small figure with the face of the Great Guardian, Sun Hongru. It was the Great Guardian's soul. At this moment, the Great Guardian's soul floated above Dongwang Tai's palm and complained, "Lord Beast Overlord, you must uphold justice for me. This Juon is our Beast Overlord Palace's new guest guardian. I've treated him well, but he repaid my kindness with ingratitude and used underhanded means to harm me. He almost killed me. Me? Lord Beast Overlord, this kind of ungrateful person must not be allowed to live. He must be executed on the spot." Dongwang Tai glanced at the Great Guardian's soul. Then his gaze fell on Juon on the arena of life and death. "Do you admit to your crimes?" Juon raised his head and mocked. "What crimes have I committed? For the sake of his own selfishness, this old bastard targeted me in every way, and he didn't even hesitate to kill me. He was the one who proposed this death match. Wasn't it to get rid of me? What he didn't expect was that my strength exceeded his expectations, and in the end, he fell into my hands. I lost on the arena of life and death, so it was only right for me to kill him. Instead, you interfered. Do you admit to your crimes?" Juon looked directly at Dongwang Tai, his voice loud and clear, so loud that even the deaf could hear it. F***CK. This guy has guts. He dares to retort in front of Lord Beast Overlord, and even asks if Lord Beast Overlord knows his crimes. Is this guy tired of living? Did this guy's confidence inflate too much after defeating the Great Guardian? Does he think he's invincible? How dare he question Lord Beast Overlord? Is he courting death? Almost everyone below the stage was stunned. They were shocked to the extreme by Juon's words. The demonic beast saint was the highest ruler of the demonic beast domain and also the strongest. He had absolute authority in the demonic beast domain. For many years, no one dared to question the demonic beast saint face to face. But now, someone had really done such a thing. Moreover, he had even questioned the demon saint. How bold of him! Hung Wu and Xianya glanced at each other, their minds in a mess. They knew that this Juon was indeed extremely daring, but they still found that they had greatly underestimated this guy. This guy's guts were even bigger than the heavens. Questioning Dongwang Tai in public, how big of a heart was this? Dongwang Tai frowned slightly. Now that he was here personally, this lad actually dared to refute him and even question him. This was the first time he was questioned in front of his face ever since he became a demon overlord. The Great Guardian is indeed in the wrong, but he doesn't deserve death. Your killing intent is too strong, and your entire body is filled with killing intent. How about this? You come with me to the demonic beast temple and reflect on your mistakes for 100 years. If you can repent, I will set you free. Dong Wang Tai's voice was indifferent, but it carried an unquestionable meaning. The saintess' expression changed slightly. Just as she was about to plead for mercy, Zhuowen spoke again. You want me to go to the demonic beast temple? That depends on whether you have the ability to make me go to the demonic beast temple. As soon as these words came out, everyone's forehead was full of black lines. They had seen arrogant people before, but they had never seen such an arrogant person. The demonic beast saint was a dignified 5th blight expert. You're at most a 4th blight expert. In front of the demonic beast saint, you're completely lacking. You actually dare to question the demonic beast saint's ability? The demonic beast saint was also stunned. This was the first time he had seen such an arrogant person. He felt a little embarrassed and planned to suppress him. In that case, I have nothing else to say to you. Today, you will go even if you don't want to. After the demonic beast saint finished speaking, he held the 9-story pagoda in his right hand and suddenly pressed down with his left hand. Suddenly, the wind and clouds in the sky changed. As the demonic beast saint pressed down with his hand, a terrifying energy formed an earth-shattering giant palm that quickly pressed down on Zhuowen, who was on the life and death platform below. At this moment, all the cultivators below the life and death platform retreated in fear. This was the demonic beast saint. The power of this attack was too terrifying. If they were accidentally affected, they would definitely suffer a great loss. At the same time, they had already regarded Zhuowen as a dead man in their hearts. They didn't think that Zhuowen could survive under the demonic beast saint's oppression. The saintess didn't retreat, but instead rushed forward and rushed to the life and death platform. Now, her heart was in a mess. She never thought that things would develop to this point. Even the demonic beast saint had to deal with Zhuowen. Zhuowen stood quietly on the life and death platform. The moment the demonic beast saint attacked, a ray of light erupted from between his eyebrows. This ray of light was too blazing. It was like the essence of the sun, containing boundless power. Then, this ray of light instantly left between Zhuowen's eyebrows and suddenly soared into the sky. Only then did everyone see that the shape of this ray of light was actually an extremely huge light sword. Moreover, this light sword had an extremely terrifying sword intent that spread in all directions. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! The moment the palm fell from the sky and collided with the light sword, terrifying energy ripples burst out. However, the palm was quickly destroyed by the light sword. The light sword soared into the sky and landed on Dong Wang Tai's body. No one noticed that the moment Dong Wang Tai was hit by the light sword, his body stiffened for a moment, as if he was a corpse. At the same time, Zhuowen moved. He took a step into the sky and quickly approached Dong Wang Tai. Then, he reached out his right hand and grabbed the soul of the Great Guardian that was floating above Dong Wang Tai. Then, Zhuowen quickly retreated and landed on the life and death platform. What? This guy broke the Beast Overlord's attack and even took the Great Guardian's soul from the Beast Overlord. How is this guy going to get there? Countless cultivators who were originally watching a good show were petrified when they saw the scene just now. Even the saintess who rushed over stopped in place and stared blankly at the scene. She had yet to react to what had just happened. At this moment, Zhuowen was holding the Great Guardian's soul. His face was pale and cold sweat covered his forehead. He raised his head and looked at Dong Wang Tai in the sky. He frowned and muttered in a low voice. Although Dong Wang Tai's cultivation is only at the early stage of the 5th decay, his soul has already reached the peak of the 5th decay. So powerful! My divine soul sword intent is already terrifying enough, but it only lightly injured his divine soul. At that moment, Zhuowen had indeed used one of his trump cards, the Soul Sword Intent. Zhuowen's soul was extremely powerful, far exceeding his cultivation. It had already reached the peak of the 5th decay. The Soul Sword Intent formed by it was enough to pose a threat to 5th decay cultivators. Chapter 3577. Although Zhuowen's Soul Sword Intent didn't seriously injure Dongwang Tai, it at least caused some hindrance. Otherwise, Zhuowen wouldn't have been able to snatch the Great Guardian Soul from Dongwang Tai so easily. Moreover, Zhuowen could clearly see that Dongwang Tai's body was still very stiff at this moment. Apparently, he was still resisting his Soul Sword Intent. However, the aura around Dongwang Tai suddenly erupted at that moment, dissipating into the sky, forming dazzling energy ripples as if it had gone berserk. After a long time, the violent energy around Dongwang Tai gradually converged, and Dongwang Tai's gaze fell on Zhuowen again. After a moment of silence, he said in a deep voice, "Your cultivation, isn't it the 3rd blight?" At this moment, Dongwang Tai's heart was very unsettled. The moment Zhuowen's Soul Sword Intent blasted into his soul, it set off a terrifying tearing storm inside his soul world. The terrifying sword intent rampaged in his soul world, constantly destroying his soul power. If it weren't for his soul being far stronger than his cultivation, he felt that his soul would very likely be completely destroyed by this Soul Sword Intent. At least he knew that if an ordinary 5th blight cultivator was hit by this Soul Sword Intent, they would at least be seriously injured or even die. At this moment, Dongwang Tai didn't dare to underestimate Zhuowen. He stared at Zhuowen, suspecting that the latter might be a 5th blight cultivator who hid his cultivation. Otherwise, how could he have such a powerful soul attack? What do you think? Zhuowen's eyes were vigilant, and he didn't answer directly. He made up his mind that if Dongwang Tai continued to attack, he would use the 9 Tribulation Divine Sword to kill Dongwang Tai, even if he had to expose the secret of the heaven-breaking divine weapon. Although he still had 2 Soul Sword Intents in his soul world, he knew very well that soul attacks had to be unexpected, especially when Dongwang Tai's soul power might not be as strong as his. But it wasn't far off. Once Dongwang Tai was on guard, his divine soul attack would not have any effect on him. Lord Demon Overlord, this Zhuowen is really too arrogant. He actually dares to act so unbridled in front of you. You must take action and kill him completely. The soul of the Great Protector trembled in Zhuowen's palm. He hurriedly suggested to Dongwang Tai to kill Zhuowen. Otherwise, the Great Protector's fate would be miserable. Noisy, Zhuowen coldly harumphed. He clenched his right fist and crushed the Chief Enforcer's divine soul. The Chief Enforcer's divine soul let out a miserable shriek and collapsed. No one had expected Zhuowen to not only snatch someone from Dongwang Tai, but also kill someone in front of Dongwang Tai. How big of a heart did he have to actually dare to do such a rebellious and arrogant act? However, what shocked everyone even more was that Dongwang Tai did not have a big reaction. Instead, he remained silent. Just when everyone thought that Dongwang Tai would be enraged and kill Zhuowen again, Dongwang Tai spoke. The Chief Enforcer's actions are indeed too much. Even if this fellow Taoist did not do it, I would have cleaned up the sect. However, the Chief Enforcer is an important position in my Demon Overlord Palace. Now that Sun Hongru has fallen, there must be a new successor. Fellow Taoist, you are my Demon Overlord Palace's guest enforcer, and your strength is extraordinary. You should be the new Chief Enforcer. Dongwang Tai's words had just left his mouth when the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone looked at Dongwang Tai in disbelief. No one had expected that not only did Dongwang Tai not punish Zhuowen, he even promoted him. The Divine Horn Enforcer below the stage was in a daze. The corner of his mouth was full of bitterness. After the Chief Enforcer was killed by Zhuowen, his heart was filled with ecstasy. He knew that the Chief Enforcer was no longer around, and he was the most favorable candidate. If nothing unexpected happened, he would be the only candidate for the Chief Enforcer. But now, not only did Dong Wang Tai not blame Zhuowen. He even made Zhuowen the new chief enforcer. The Divine Horn Enforcer was unwilling and helpless. He knew that he no longer had the chance to become the new chief enforcer. Among the people present, only Hung Wu and Xianya saw the clues. Their point of view was completely different from the others. Just now, Zhuowen and Dong Wang Tai had only fought for a short time. It seemed like Zhuowen was at a disadvantage, but the two of them could clearly sense that Dong Wang Tai might have been injured by the light sword. Thinking of this, the two felt that it was inconceivable, but also reasonable. If Dong Wang Tai was unharmed, he would have suppressed Zhuowen directly to show his majesty as a demon overlord. But Dong Wang Tai did not do that. Instead, he comforted Zhuowen. In the eyes of outsiders, this action was to forgive Zhuowen and give Zhuowen a chance. But in the eyes of Hung Wu and Xianya, it was a sign that Dong Wang Tai was afraid of Zhuowen. Just how strong is this Zhuowen? Hung Wu and Xianya looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. This person can make Dong Wang Tai give in. Just how strong is he? Is he also a fifth blight powerhouse? When everyone thought that Zhuowen would accept the position of chief enforcer, Zhuowen only said indifferently, "Demon Overlord, I might have to disappoint you. I'm not interested in the position of chief enforcer. I fought with Sun Hongru to the death, not because I coveted his position, but because he was too greedy. If chief enforcer really needs a successor, I'll recommend him to Divine Horn Enforcer. In Demon Overlord Palace, no one is more qualified than him to become chief enforcer." The moment Zhuowen refused, the people below the stage felt dizzy. This guy was simply too pretentious. Demon Overlord personally invited him to become chief enforcer, and he actually refused. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Dong Wang Tai was also startled. He looked at Divine Horn Enforcer and said, "Since that's the case, I won't force you. I'll let Divine Horn succeed the position of chief enforcer for the time being. Also, after this banquet, come to my Demon Overlord Palace. I have something to ask you." "No problem." Zhuowen did not refuse. Dong Wang Tai nodded and no longer paid attention to Zhuowen. He had everyone return to the square, and the banquet began. The banquet was very lively. There was no unhappy atmosphere because of Sun Hongru's death. Many representatives stood up and congratulated Dong Wang Tai for successfully advancing to the fifth blight. In addition, Zhuowen's seat was also very lively. Many representatives raised their cups and came to curry favor with Zhuowen. In the battle just now, many people could see that Zhuowen was not simple. After all, someone who could kill the Great Elder was not an ordinary person. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was sitting calmly in his seat. Anyone who came to get close to him was basically blocked by the Divine Horn Guardians. Since Zhuowen gave up the position of chief enforcer to Divine Horn Enforcer, Divine Horn Enforcer was very grateful to Zhuowen and respected him like a god. He knew that Zhuowen did not like to be disturbed, so he blocked most of the people who came to curry favor with him. Protector Liu Yin and Sun Hong knelt not far from Zhuowen, uneasy and pale. Chapter 3578. To Zhuowen, Sun Hong and Protector Liu Yan were just small fries. Although the two of them had targeted him before, he really couldn't be bothered to deal with them. Of course, Zhuowen didn't object to the two of them coming over to kneel and admit their mistakes. As for how long they had to kneel, Zhuowen didn't interfere. Actually, Zhuowen had also not taken the head protector seriously back then. However, the head protector was truly too arrogant and had even tried to kill Zhuowen. As such, Zhuowen could not be blamed for specifically dealing with the head protector. Protector Zhua. Eastern Emperor Tai Yi's Beast Temple is filled with many powerful spirit arrays and barriers. It is Eastern Emperor Tai Yi's lair, so I think it's best if you don't take any risks. During the banquet, Hung Wu and Xianya both sent him messages, advising him not to enter Beast Temple rashly in case the Beast Saint tried to harm him. Zhuowen reassured the two of them that he had his own decisions to make. Zhuowen looked at the high platform and saw the Saintess sitting next to Eastern Emperor Tai Yi, his eyes flashing. He knew that he was going to Beast Temple this time to have a good talk with the Beast Saint about Muchinshue. He knew very well that the Beast Saint had just broken through to the early Fifth Blight and had yet to fully consolidate his realm. What he needed the most now was a divine pill to consolidate his Fifth Blight. But in this starry sky, those who could concoct this kind of divine pill were definitely the most top-notch half-step heaven-breaking great alchemists. In the monster domain, even ordinary half-step heaven-break great alchemists were difficult to find, let alone top half-step heaven-break great alchemists. And Zhuowen happened to be one of the top half-step heaven-break great alchemists. As long as Eastern Emperor Tai, he had enough half-step heaven-break grade divine pills, he could refine a divine pill to consolidate his Fifth Blight. And this was the bargaining chip he needed to get Muchinshue to leave Beast Saint Palace. After the banquet ended, the representatives of many forces bid farewell to Eastern Emperor Tai Yi, and even Hung Wu and Shinya left. However, the two of them still reminded Zhuowen before leaving. Dongwang Tai stood up, glanced at Zhuowen, and suddenly disappeared from the square. Dongwang Tai's sonorous voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. "Meet me at the Demon Saint Palace. Husband, you must not go to the demonic beast temple. That place is the origin of the demon realm and has the densest demonic aura in the entire demon realm. Demon saints are the strongest in the Demon Saint Temple. If you go there, you'll be like a lamb in a tiger's den." Zhuowen stood up, and so did the Holy Maiden. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anxiety as she sent a voice transmission to Zhuowen. "It's all right. Believe in your husband. Even if the Demon Saint is at the peak of the Fifth Blight, I still have the ability to escape." Zhuowen transmitted a message back, then left the square and headed towards the Demon Saint Temple. He had a Heaven Breaker Divine tool on him, and he also had the terrifying power of the ultimate Yin Flame. Even if this Demon Saint really did attack him, he wouldn't be afraid. The Holy Maiden looked at Zhuowen's back as he left. She sighed and followed him. The Demon Saint Temple was located at the core of the Demon Saint Palace. It was a magnificent palace. Moreover, the surface of the Demon Saint Temple was filled with extremely dense demonic aura. The demonic aura was so dense that it was almost tangible. At this moment, the door of the Demon Saint Temple was open, and it was pitch black inside. "Husband, I'll go in with you. If the Demon Saint really does harm to you, I might be able to help you." The Holy Maiden walked beside Zhuowen, her brows furrowed. "All right, come in with me." Zhuowen didn't refuse. Thus, the two of them entered the Demon Saint Temple. When they reached the deepest part of the Demon Saint Temple, the originally pitch-black hall suddenly lit up with clusters of blue flames. These blue flames floated in the air, emitting a faint blue light, mysterious and distant. Only then did Zhuowen realize that at the front of the hall there was a throne, and Dong Huangtai was sitting on it. At the same time, there were pitch-black chains around the hall. These chains were as thick as an arm and emitted a cold light. Zhuowen discovered that there was a figure standing on each chain. The aura of these figures was extremely terrifying. The weakest was at the peak of the heaven-passing realm, and the strongest was at the peak of the fourth heaven's blight. However, the aura of death on these figures was very dense. The moment Zhuowen scanned these figures with his divine will, he immediately recognized that these were the corpses of the great shamans he had seen in the 9-story tower. However, these great shamans had been refined into corpse puppets by Dongwang Tai and were completely under his control. "You're very bold to actually dare to come to the Demon Saint Temple. Tell me, what's your name?" Dongwang Tai sat on the throne and looked down at Zhuowen. "My name is Zhuowen. I came to the Demon Saint Temple just to discuss something with you. As long as you agree to this, I can help you completely consolidate the early stage of the fifth decay in a short time." Zhuowen said calmly. The moment Dongwang Tai heard Zhuowen's words, his pupils shrank, and he completely lost his calm. "You can help me consolidate the fifth decay?" Dongwang Tai's eyes flashed, and he sneered. "As far as I know, your cultivation is only at the third decay, but your divine soul is extremely powerful, and you know how to attack the divine soul. With your cultivation, How can you help me consolidate the fifth decay with your cultivation? Unless you're a top half-step heaven break alchemist. Unfortunately, not to mention the demon realm, even the heaven pass secret realm can't find a few top half-step heaven break alchemists. Dong Wang Tai shook his head. He felt that Zhuowen was talking nonsense. I'm a half-step heaven break alchemist. There are two kinds of elixirs that can consolidate the early stage of the fifth decay. They are the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill and the Fecta Nirvana Jade Pill. If you can get the materials for these two kinds of elixirs, then I can immediately refine these two kinds of elixirs for you and help you consolidate the realm. Zhuowen said calmly. Dong Wang Tai was startled at first, and then his eyes lit up. Of the two kinds of elixirs that Zhuowen mentioned, he had only heard of the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill. This kind of elixir was indeed a panacea for consolidating the early stage of the fifth decay. Before he broke through the early stage of the fifth decay, he had already searched for the ingredients for the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill so that he could use it to consolidate the realm after breaking through. However, he had collected almost all the ingredients, but he hadn't found an alchemist who could refine this kind of elixir. Originally, he had given up on using the elixir to consolidate the realm and planned to use time to consolidate the realm slowly. He didn't expect that Zhuowen would come to him. Moreover, Zhuowen could easily mention the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill. Obviously, he was not a weak, half-step heaven break alchemist. Okay, I'll give you a chance. If you can successfully refine the Thousand Revolving Jade Essence Heavenly Pill, I'll pretend that nothing happened and you'll be able to keep your life. Dong Wang Tai said solemnly. Chapter 3579. Dong Wang Tai narrowed his eyes, and his aura exploded. He coldly looked down at Zhuowen and said, "What did you just say? You said the Saintess is your wife?" Zhuowen stood there, not being affected by Dong Wang Tai's aura at all, as he softly replied, "That's right. She and I both came from the Heavenly Armor planet and are of the same origin, so we became husband and wife a long time ago." At this moment, Mu Chenxue also stood out and cupped her hands to Dong Wang Tai. "Sir Monster Saint, I've told you before that I had a husband. You should know that I've been looking for my husband all these years. And now my husband has found me." Dong Wang Tai fell silent. He did know that Mu Chenxue had a husband before, but that was a matter of the Heavenly Armor planet. He thought that even if Mu Chenxue's husband's talent wasn't bad, his cultivation should be very low. In Dong Wang Tai's eyes, the husband Mu Chenxue spoke of was nothing more than an insignificant ant. But now, Zhuowen had appeared. He knew that the ant he thought of before was actually this strong. "Chenxue, congratulations on finding your husband. How about this? You and your husband can be together again. But you're my monster saint after all, so you can't leave as you please. Since your husband is here, he can stay in the Monster Saint Palace with you in the future. I won't mistreat the two of you," Dong Wang Tai softly said. "Dong Wang Tai, the Monster Saint Palace can't hold me. I feel like you should consider this carefully. I'll help you refine the 1,000 Rotation Jade Marrow Heavenly Pill and help you consolidate your cultivation. Then my wife and I will leave the Monster Saint Palace," Zhuowen softly said. Dong Wang Tai revealed a smile, but his smile was very cold. He looked down at Zhuowen and said, "Do you think you still have a choice? Your divine soul is indeed strong, but your cultivation is only at the third blight. The Monster Saint Palace is my home. In this place, my strength is the strongest. Even if a mid-fifth blight cultivator comes in, they won't be able to leave. If you want to live, you can only agree to my request. Otherwise, only death awaits." Mu Chenxue's expression changed slightly. She did not expect Dong Wang Tai to be so ruthless. He actually used forceful means to keep them here. However, when Mu Chenxue saw the calm look on Zhuowen's face, her heart calmed down. She had absolute trust in Zhuowen. She knew that Zhuowen would not act on impulse. Since he dared to come to the demon temple, it meant that he had the confidence to leave this place. At this moment, The figures with terrifying auras on the countless chains above the hall began to move. They turned into black afterimages, darting about in the air like ghosts in the night. Haha, in the Beast Saint Palace, I don't even need to do anything. My corpse puppets can tear you apart. These corpse puppets were all made from the corpses of powerful senior magi back in the ancient era and are extremely powerful. You won't be a match for them. Dongwang Tai's indifferent voice rang out in the hall. His voice was filled with confidence. He looked at Zhuowen with contempt and disdain in his eyes. He did not intend to kill Zhuowen directly. Instead, he intended to let the corpse puppets seriously injure Zhuowen, and then force him a hand over his divine soul imprint and become his slave. Not to mention that this person's strength was so powerful, the fact that he could refine the top half-step heaven-breaking divine elixir proved how valuable he was. Once he had such a powerful alchemist at his disposal, the power of the Demon Saint Palace would rise to a higher level. At that time, even if the heaven-accessing place was much more powerful than the Demon Saint Palace, he was confident that he could catch up with them in a short time. But soon, Dongwang Tai was stunned. He saw Zhuowen in the middle of the hall with a calm expression. He only moved his index finger slightly, and the golden ring on his index finger surged with a white flame. Clatter! The moment the white flame gushed out of the golden ring, it spread out like an evil fire snake and rose to the sky, forming a sea of fire all over the sky. This white flame did not contain a blazing temperature, but was filled with an incomparably cold and ancient chill. All the corpse puppets that rushed to Zhuowen were turned into ice sculptures the moment they touched the white flame. Then, the ice sculptures turned into powder in the surging flame. These flames were too terrifying. Whether it was the peak ascending heaven corpse puppet or the terrifying fourth decay corpse puppet, none of them were able to escape being turned into countless ice shards the moment they touched the white flames. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. The ultimate fire. No, how can you have this kind of flame? Stop it. Stop it right now. Dongwang Tai was about to go crazy when he saw the white flame engulfing the corpse puppets. The ultimate Hanin flame. This was the most terrifying energy that would only descend when a cultivator was crossing the fifth blight. Dongwang Tai had just entered the fifth blight, so he was impressed by the ultimate fire. At that time, if it were not for his good fortune and some luck, he would have perished in this extreme Hanin fire. Moreover, the extreme Hanin fire of his fifth decay was only the size of a brazier. Even so, he was still being bombarded to the point of hovering between life and death. However, the extreme Hanin flame released by Zhuowen was simply too terrifying. It covered an area of several kilometers and was completely filled with extreme Hanin flame. And what made Dongwang Tai's heart ache was that his corpse puppets were being destroyed at a speed visible to the naked eye in the ultimate fire. These corpse puppets were refined by him after countless years of hard work. He even risked his life to steal the corpses of many great shamans to refine. It was because of these powerful corpse puppets that the Demon Saint Palace he established was able to stand at the peak of the demon realm. It was also because of these corpse puppets and the 9-story pagoda that he was able to establish the demon realm under the pressure of the Xian Mi heavenly domain and the untainted desolation heavenly domain. But now almost all of his corpse puppets were dying in the ultimate fire. This was a heavy loss for him. When the last peak fourth blight corpse puppet was destroyed by the ultimate fire, Zhuowen lazily put away the remaining ultimate fire with the golden ring. He looked at Dongwang Tai with a questioning gaze. Although Zhuowen looked very calm on the surface, his heart was pained. Just now, he had used a third of the ultimate fire. This kind of energy was too terrifying, but it was also consumed very quickly. If it wasn't for the golden ring, he wouldn't have been able to suppress this terrifying flame. Feeling Zhuowen's gaze, Dongwang Tai's scalp tingled. He finally knew that this Zhuowen knew he would harm him, but he still dared to come to the Demon Saint Palace. This guy wasn't stupid, but he had a powerful trump card and wasn't afraid of him at all. Dongwang Tai, what did you just say? In the Demon Saint Palace, I'm not your match at all? Are you saying that you want to fight me personally? Zhuowen looked at Dongwang Tai, his indifferent voice resounding in the empty palace. Mu Qinxue was still standing beside Zhuowen. She looked at the corpse puppets turning into ice shards and couldn't help but be stunned. She always knew that Zhuowen was very strong, but there should be a limit to this strength. In her view, Zhuowen came to the Demon Saint Palace with confidence, so he should have the confidence to escape. Chapter 3580. Mu Qinxue was very clear that these corpse puppets were the main force of Dongwang Tai's rule over the monster domain. Now that they had been completely burned by Zhuowen, Dongwang Tai would be crying without tears. This was a heavy loss. Dongwang Tai stood on the throne. After a long silence, he finally said, "I promise you that as long as you can refine the 1,000 Revolution Jade Marrow Heavenly Pill, you and the Saintess can leave the Monster Saint Palace and won't be bound by the Monster Saint Palace. All right, Qinxue and I will be in the Saintess Temple. Just send the 1,000 Revolution Jade Marrow Heavenly Pill's ingredients to the Saintess Temple. When the time comes, I will help you refine the pill." After Zhuowen said this, he pulled the petrified Mu Qinxue and slowly left the Monster Saint Palace. When Zhuowen completely disappeared from the main hall, Dongwang Tai, who had been sitting on the throne, tightly gripped the armrests of the throne as the back of his hands turned pale. "I never thought that Zhuowen would have this kind of trump card," Dongwang Tai muttered to himself with a bitter smile. With his strength, the Hanin flame would not be able to injure him, but it would make him run for his life. Once he fell into a disadvantage, Zhuowen could still escape the Monster Saint Palace. This was equal to completely offending Zhuowen. Dongwang Tai was very clear that Zhuowen's cultivation time was around the same as Mu Qinxue's, only a few thousand years. This child's talent was extraordinary. His cultivation was this terrifying at such a young age, and he even had such a powerful trump card. When Zhuowen's cultivation increased in the future, he might not be his match. If he completely offended him, he would be in big trouble in the future. This was also one of the conditions that he agreed to Zhuowen's request. What made Dongwang Tai reveal a bitter smile was that because of his miscalculation, his losses were too great. Almost all of his corpse puppets had been burned by the Hanin flame. These were all loyal to him and were willing to give up their lives for him. Forget it, forget it. If my fifth blight can be completely stabilized, even if Corpse Chief is lost, I can still support the entire Fiend territory. Dongwang Tai sighed. Not long after Zhuowen and Mu Qinxue left the Bee Saint Temple, they encountered a figure. "Warjua, why are you here?" When the figure saw Zhuowen, he immediately stopped. His eyes were filled with awe as he bowed to Zhuowen. When Zhuowen saw this person, he immediately recognized her. She was Su Yuan, whom he had suppressed and then released. "Young Master Su Yuan, you're here too. Are you looking for the Demon Saint?" The moment Mu Qinxue saw this young man, her beautiful eyes immediately revealed a look of respect. She had heard of this Su Yuan when she returned. It was said that she came from a mysterious upper realm. She was a truly important figure. Even demonic saints had to treat her with caution. After all, Mu Qinxue was the holy maiden of the Fiend territory and knew many secrets. She had also heard of the upper realm and knew that there were as many experts as clouds there. There were true heaven-breaking realm powerhouses. And this Su Yuan from the upper realm was naturally not an ordinary person in Mu Qinxue's eyes. She naturally had to treat him with caution. "Oh, so it's the Holy Maiden. What a coincidence. I indeed came to find the Demon Saint for some matters." Su Yuan glanced at Mu Qinxue and merely nodded. He did not pay too much attention. Instead, he carefully looked at Zhuowen with an uneasy expression. Mu Qinxue saw Su Yuan's uneasy expression, and her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. This was an important guest from the upper realm. Why did he look a little afraid of Zhuowen? Especially Su Yuan's behavior. Mu Qinxue was very familiar with it. Normally, it was the kind of uneasiness a servant would show when facing their master. And the way Su Yuan addressed Zhuowen was actually adding the word Lord. What was going on? "Su Yuan, go to the Beast Saint Palace. Don't worry about me. But if there are any results, remember to use the communication jade talisman to report to me." Zhuowen waved his hand. Su Yuan nodded repeatedly and slowly retreated. Mu Chenxua looked at Su Yuan, who left with his head lowered. She revealed a surprised expression and said, "Husband, you know young Master Su Yuan? His background is very great. So why is he so respectful to you?" Mu Chenxua stared closely at Zhuowen. She realized that in these years of separation, Zhuowen's rate of improvement was far beyond her imagination. Originally, she had thought that her rate of improvement was already very fast, but she had not thought that Zhuowen was even faster than her. Moreover, it was terrifyingly fast. Now, even the Beast Saint was suppressed by him. It was really terrifying. Zhuowen laughed and said, "It's a long story. When we return to the Saintess Palace, I will tell you in detail." With that, Zhuowen hugged Mu Chenxua. The latter's beautiful face blushed slightly, and she rolled her eyes at Zhuowen coquettishly. However, she did not break free from his embrace. Instead, she sweetly leaned on his chest. In the Beast Saint Palace, Su Yuan came to the main hall. Looking at Dongwang Tai, who was sitting on the throne and looking a little absent-minded, Su Yuan asked doubtfully, "Beast Saint, where is the great guardian Sun Hongru?" Su Yuan's physical body had just been completely repaired. As soon as he recovered, he sent a message to the great guardian, asking him to inform Dongwang Tai to meet him. However, the great guardian did not respond at all. Su Yuan had no choice but to go to the Beast Saint Palace by himself. Dongwang Tai came back to his senses. He looked at Su Yuan and sighed softly. "So it's young Master Su Yuan. I heard from the great guardian that you were injured before. Are you better now? Thank you for your concern, Beast Saint. My injuries are almost healed. However, after I recovered, the great guardian was not there. He didn't even reply to my message. Isn't he neglecting his duties?" Su Yuan was slightly displeased. "The great guardian has fallen," Dongwang Tai said helplessly. "What? Had he fallen? Who did it?" Su Yuan's eyes flashed with killing intent as he said coldly. The great guardian had always listened to him, and he had a good impression of the great guardian. Now that he knew that the great guardian had fallen, he was very displeased. Dongwang Tai looked at Su Yuan, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. This Su Yuan came from the upper realm. Although his cultivation was only at the peak of the third blight, this guy had a very strong backer. Moreover, he heard from the great guardian that Su Yuan had a heaven breaker artifact. With such a divine artifact, he could do whatever he wanted in this galaxy. Even if he had just advanced to the fifth blight, in front of a heaven breaker artifact, he was completely trash. If Su Yuan was willing to make a move, then no matter how strong Zhuowen was, he would still be trash. The great guardian was killed by a guest guardian of the Beast Saint Palace named Zhuowen. This kid is extremely arrogant, but he is very strong. He also has the terrifying tribulation energy of the ultimate Han In fire. Young Master Su Yuan, you have a heaven breaker artifact, and your strength is monstrous. If you make a move, this Zhuowen will be easily captured. I hope that young Master Su Yuan can make a move and avenge the great guardian. As the Beast Saint spoke, he quickly realized that something was wrong. This was because he noticed that Su Yuan's face had become very pale and bloodless. Even his body was trembling. "Good kill," Su Yuan suddenly shouted. Chapter 3581. Young Master Su Yuan. You. Dongwang Tai looked at young Master Su Yuan, who was flustered and exasperated. "Weren't you the one who was praising the great guardian's loyalty at the start? After hearing about the great guardian's death, you were filled with murderous intent, as if you were determined to take revenge. Why did you suddenly shrink back? You even said that it was a good thing to kill him. Are you sure you're angry for the great guardian and want to take revenge for him? Wasn't this style changing a little too fast? I said it was a good thing that the great guardian died. If I wasn't there, Master Zhuo wouldn't even have to do anything. I would have killed that idiot." Su Yuan was trembling with anger. When he found out that the Great Guardian had offended Zhuowen, he was scared out of his wits. He knew that the Great Guardian and Zhuowen had some conflicts. The Great Guardian had even threatened to kill Zhuowen in front of him. At that time, Su Yuan had already warned the Great Guardian not to offend Zhuowen because he couldn't afford to offend him. Unfortunately, the Great Protector didn't listen to his suggestion and actually wanted to deal with Zhuowen. In the end, he died because of it. He deserved it. At the same time, Su Yuan was terrified. The Great Protector was usually very close to him and had become his follower. If Zhuowen knew about this, would he blame him for what had happened to the Great Guardian? Thinking of this, Su Yuan's body trembled. He made up his mind to go to Zhuowen and ask for forgiveness. After all, his soul imprint was still with Zhuowen. His life was completely in the hands of Zhuowen. He couldn't be careless about this. Dong Wangtai was in a bad mood. What was going on? Su Yuan was a powerhouse from the upper realm and had a heaven-breaking artifact. Even he was afraid of him. Why did Su Yuan sound like he was afraid of Zhuowen? Dong Wangtai shook his head. He felt that this idea was unrealistic. Even though Zhuowen was strong, he was only a living being of the lower dimensions in the end, and the gap between him and Su Yuan could be said to be like the gap between the heavens and the earth. They couldn't be compared at all. Perhaps Su Yuan was too excited, so she made a slip of the tongue. Dong Wangtai comforted himself. However, he soon felt that something was amiss. Su Yuan seemed to have mentioned Lord Zhuowen. Could the Lord Zhuo she was talking about be Zhuowen? But how was that possible? He must have misheard. No. Demon Saint, come with me to where Lord Zhuo is. We must apologize to him. Otherwise, not only will I be finished, but your Demon Saint Palace will be finished as well. The more Su Yuan thought about it, the paler his face became. His gaze turned serious as he spoke to Dong Wangtai. Is it that serious? Dong Wangtai was dumbfounded and had a strange look in his eyes. He wondered if Su Yuan had lost her mind. She was an expert from the higher realms with a noble status and a heaven-breaking grade divine item. Why was she acting so cowardly now? Young Master Su Yuan, who is this lord you're talking about? Dong Wangtai braced himself and asked tentatively. Su Yuan said impatiently, It's that Zhuowen. Back then, I told the Great Enforcer not to look for Lord Zhuo. He's not someone he can afford to offend. That guy didn't listen to me. He deserved to die. Forget it, Demon Saint. Now is not the time to talk about this. We must go and apologize. Otherwise, our lives will be in danger. Dong Wangtai was dumbfounded. The Lord Zhuo that Su Yuan was talking about was really Zhuowen. He felt as if his soul had been hit by a torrent. It was suffocating. Young Master Su Yuan, that Zhuowen is just a cultivator from the lower dimensions. If you were to attack him, he would be nothing. You don't have to be so afraid of him, right? Dong Wangtai couldn't help but ask. Su Yuan said coldly, Demon Saint, you better watch your words. Who said that Lord Zhuo is a being from the lower dimensions? I can clearly tell you that he also came from the 100 outer realms of the upper realm, and his clan is even more powerful than the Hushu clan behind me. I fought with Lord Zhuo before. Do you know what the result was? What was it? Dong Wangtai asked subconsciously. He faintly felt that Zhuo won and Su Yuan should be at a disadvantage in their fight. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the latter to be so respectful towards Zhuo. I was completely defeated. Even the Heaven Breaker divine artifact that my young master gave me was taken away by him. Tell me, can we afford to offend someone like that? Su Yuan said calmly. Thump. Dong Wangtai slumped into his seat, his face ashen. He finally knew that Zhuowen knew that the Demon Saint Temple was in danger, but he still dared to come. Not only was he confident, but he also didn't think much of him. Young Master Su Yuan, according to what you said, Zhuowen. Oh, no. Lord Zhuo also has a Heaven Breaker divine artifact? Dong Wangtai asked. Of course. His Heaven Breaker divine artifact is of a higher level than mine. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to take it away so easily. Su Yuan said with a bitter smile. Dong Wangtai's entire body went limp. He finally knew what kind of person he had offended. If Zhuowen had used his Heaven Breaker divine artifact in the main hall, he would have been dead by now. Young Master Su Yuan, Let's go to Lord Zhua and ask for forgiveness. Dong Wang Tai stood up and followed Su Yuan out of the Demon Saint Temple. At that moment, in the Saint's palace, Mu Qin Shui was sizing up Zhuo Wen. Her beautiful eyes were filled with displeasure as she said, "Husband, are you hiding many things from me? Young Master Su Yuan is an important guest from the upper realm. He has an extraordinary background, and it's said that he has a heaven-breaker divine artifact. Even a demon saint has to show him some respect. Why is he so quiet and respectful in front of you?" Zhuowen smiled bitterly. "Qin Shui, it's not that I want to hide this from you. I just didn't think of it. It's actually like this." Zhuowen told Mu Qinshui everything from the auction of the profound sky, sea-settling vine to the battle with Su Yuan, and how he finally subdued Su Yuan. Mu Qinshui's eyes widened when she heard this. "Husband, you actually have a heaven-breaker divine artifact. Even young master Su Yuan's heaven-breaker divine artifact was defeated by you?" Zhuowen shrugged and said with a chuckle, "Your husband, I, was rather lucky. I found the coffin of a Heaven-Breaker tier elite and obtained the majority of that Heaven-Breaker tier elite's belongings, including a Heaven-Breaker grade divine artifact." Having said that, Zhuowen took out a shining golden millstone from his great world. Chapter 3582. Chun Shui. This golden millstone is Su Yuan's heaven-breaking divine artifact. It's a first-level heaven-breaking divine artifact. I'll give this golden millstone to you. If you completely refine it, no one in this starry sky will be able to hurt you. Zhuowen handed the golden millstone to Mu Qinshui. Mu Qinshui was stunned and immediately declined. "Husband, you should use this golden millstone to protect yourself. You need it more than me." Zhuowen shook his head and said, "I already have a heaven-breaking divine artifact on me. This is completely unnecessary. You can use it. Only if you take this can I be at ease." Mu Qinshui hesitated for a while, but still accepted the golden millstone. Although this golden millstone was damaged quite a bit by the 9 Tribulation Divine Sword, its power was still there. Perhaps it was not as good as a first-level heaven-breaking divine artifact, but in this starry sky, it was already a top existence. And because of the damage to this golden millstone, it was much easier to refine it. Although Mu Qinshui's cultivation was only at the 2nd decay, with Zhuowen's help, she could still refine this damaged golden millstone. While Mu Qinshui was refining the golden millstone, Zhuowen took out the little immortal monarch cauldron and continued to break the seal on it. After a while, Mu Qinshui opened her eyes and put away the golden millstone. Zhuowen noticed Mu Qinshui's strange state and said, "Chun Shui, what's wrong?" "The monster saint has come to the Saint Lady Temple, and he came with Su Yuan," Mu Qinshui said with a strange look in her eyes. "Oh, Dong Wang Tai is also here?" Zhuowen revealed a look of surprise. Zhuowen was not surprised that Su Yuan would come. He knew very well that Su Yuan should have gone to the Monster Saint Temple to discuss with Dong Wang Tai about finding the primordial luck. Once the discussion was settled, Su Yuan would definitely come back to report to him. However, he did not expect that Dong Wang Tai would also come, which made Zhuowen a little confused. "Husband, you stay in a room for now. I'll go to the hall to entertain them," Mu Qinshui said. "No need, I'll go with you. If I'm not wrong, Dong Wang Tai and Su Yuan should be looking for me." Zhuowen stood up and said. Mu Qinshui nodded and did not refuse. She had learned many things from Zhuowen. She knew that with Zhuowen's strength and foundation, even if Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai joined forces, they would not be a match for him. When the two of them arrived at the hall, they found Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai sitting in their seats. 2 maids from the Saint Lady Temple were carefully serving them. When Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai saw Zhuowen come out, they stood up with a solemn expression. Su Yuan naturally bowed to Zhuowen. Dong Wang Tai was a little hesitant, but in the end, he followed Su Yuan and bowed to Zhuowen. He said in a deep voice, "Taoism Frinjua, what happened in the Monster Saint Temple just now was all my fault. I hope Taoism friend Zhua will not take it to heart. The two maids who were originally serving Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai were moved. They looked at Zhuowen, then looked at Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai, who were bowing, and thought that there was something wrong with their eyes. Whether it was Dong Wang Tai or Su Yuan, they were the most powerful people in the Monster Saint Palace. Dong Wang Tai was the supreme leader of the Monster Saint Palace and the founder of the Monster Realm. He was a real big shot. Su Yuan's origin was even more amazing. It was said that she came from a mysterious upper world, and even a monster saint had to respect her. In the eyes of the two maids, they were supreme figures. Now, they were actually bowing to this unknown guy. Were they crazy? The two maids were the personal maids of the saintess. When Zhuowen came to visit the saintess for the first time, he saw Zhuowen and knew that Zhuowen was only a guest protector of the Monster Saint Palace. When they saw the saintess being so intimate with this person, they were dissatisfied and felt that this person was not worthy of the saintess. But now, this insignificant guest protector in their eyes was being bowed to by Su Yuan and Dong Wang Tai. Just who was this guy? Zhuowen's eyes were calm. He waved his hand at Dong Wang Tai and said, "Monster Saint, you don't have to be so polite. It was just a misunderstanding. I didn't take it to heart." Dong Wang Tai let out a sigh of relief in his heart and quickly said, "Fellow Zhua, refining the 1,000 Revolution Jade Essence Heavenly Pill is very taxing on one's mind. Actually, fellow Zhua doesn't need to force yourself. I don't need the divine pill to consolidate my cultivation." After knowing Zhuowen's terrifying origin, Dong Wang Tai was scared. He did not dare ask for the divine pill refined by Zhuowen. "No problem. I will never refuse the things I promise. Moreover, you have helped Qin Shui, so I have to repay this kindness," Zhuowen lightly said. "Then I'll have to thank fellow Zhua," Dong Wang Tai quickly said with gratitude. Zhuowen looked at Su Yuan and said, "Fellow Su Yuan, have you discussed this matter with the Monster Saint?" Su Yuan awkwardly said, "We didn't have time to discuss it before I told him about Sir's origin, so we came to ask for Sir's forgiveness first." "No problem. Come with me to the back garden. This matter is very important, so we need to discuss it in detail," Zhuowen said without caring. In the back garden of the Saintess Palace, Zhuowen, Mu Qinxue, Dong Wang Tai, and Su Yuan sat around a stone table and began to discuss the matter of primitive fate. In the beginning, Dong Wang Tai did not know what primitive fate was. However, after Su Yuan's explanation, he revealed a moved expression and his heart was filled with passion. According to Su Yuan, primitive fate had immeasurable benefits to one's cultivation and future potential. Even if one obtained a trace of it, one's future achievements would not be low. If one could obtain a lot of it, their future would be limitless. Moreover, there would not be many bottlenecks in their future cultivation. It was a supreme good thing. Primitive fate actually has such a wonderful effect. Dong Wang Tai's eyes sparkled as he said, "Monster Saint, I know that you are someone who has existed since ancient times, so you should know many secrets. Do you know where the primitive fate is?" Su Yuan quickly asked. Dong Wang Tai slightly knit his brows and thought for a while before saying, "This is the first time I've heard of primitive fate, but I know the origin of this starry sky before it was formed. The origin of this starry sky is engraved in this gold leaf. If there is any place that has the magical primitive fate that you're talking about, then it is here," Dong Wang Tai said as he took out a palm-sized gold leaf. The gold leaf shone brightly and shone brightly. On the surface of the gold leaf, there were densely engraved words. These words were very strange. They were actually intertwined with each other and looked very awkward. I have studied this gold leaf for countless years. In the past, I could not understand it. Now I have studied it thoroughly. If the words in this gold leaf are pieced together according to a pattern, it will form a very strange road map. Dong Wang Tai said in a low voice, "Piece together the road map and have a look," Su Yuan said with a burning gaze. Dong Wang Tai nodded and began to piece together the gold leaf. After about half an incense stick's time, Dong Wang Tai placed the gold leaf back on the table. The densely engraved words on the surface of the gold leaf on the table were no longer there. Instead, it was replaced by a golden roadmap. Chapter 3583. Zhuan was not unfamiliar with the end of the route shown in the golden leaf. Instead, he was quite familiar with it, because the end of the route in the golden bowl was actually the place where Pengu had fallen that Zhuan had entered. He remembered that there were countless chaos beasts sealed in the place where Pengu had fallen. These chaos beasts were not kind, and there were many of them. They were the source of the catastrophe in this galaxy. The end of this route is near the western border of the galaxy. It's considered a very remote place. But is there really the source of the primeval providence there? Dong Wangtai asked, puzzled. He had obtained this golden leaf long ago, but he had only recently unraveled the secret of the golden leaf. As for the end of the route shown in the golden leaf, he did not know much about it. Su Yuan was trembling with excitement. His mission this time was for the primeval providence. Now that he had a clue, all that was left was to find the exact location of the primeval providence. As long as he found the location of the primeval providence, he would have to inform the young master. At that time, he would have done a great deed. However, when he thought of his spirit imprint still on Zhuan, his heart suddenly became hazy and worried. I've been there before. It's an ominous place. Countless chaos beasts are sealed there. If there really was a place of primeval providence there, I should have been able to detect it back then. Zhuan frowned and voiced his doubts. At the same time, he looked at Dong Wangtai. Chaos beasts? Chaos beasts are actually sealed there? Su Yuan's pupils constricted, and his gaze became filled with fear. Su Yuan came from the 100 domains outside the realm, so he naturally knew what chaos beasts were. Most of these creatures did not have particularly strong cultivation, but their reproduction ability was terrifyingly strong. Once they appeared in a certain galaxy, chaos beasts would immediately reproduce rapidly. In an extremely short period of time, the number of chaos beasts would skyrocket by hundreds and thousands. Moreover, among the sea of chaos beasts, there would always be some mutation, evolving into a terrifying chaos beast, and this mutated chaos beast would become the leader of the beast herd. If there were enough primal chaos beasts, even peak 5th blight cultivators who were surrounded by primal chaos beasts would die with regret. Some heaven-breaking realm cultivators who weren't that strong might even flee in a sorry state under the siege of primal chaos beasts. Su Yuan knew very well that even if he had the golden millstone, he would still be in danger if he was surrounded by chaos beasts. Now that the golden millstone had been taken away by Zhuan, he would be seeking his own death if he entered that place. On the other hand, Dong Wangtai was confused. He knew nothing about the primordial beasts. However, when he saw the expression on Su Yuan's face, he guessed that the chaos beast was not simple. Lord Zhua, could there be a mistake? If the primordial providence was really there, the primordial providence would have been absorbed by the primordial providence long ago. How could there be a share for us? Su Yuan sighed. That's not necessarily true. We just need to go and investigate whether the primordial providence is there or not. Zhuan said. Although Zhuan had entered the place where Pengu had fallen, he hadn't stayed there for long. Moreover, after receiving Pengu's inheritance, he had left and hadn't carefully investigated that place. Now that he thought about it carefully, that place was filled with mountains and covered an extremely large area. Moreover, it was located in a remote area, and ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect it at all. Perhaps it really was the place where the primordial providence was. At the same time, Zhuan glanced at the golden leaf in the demon saint's hand. He felt that the primordial providence was definitely in a very secret place, and this golden leaf should be something like a key to open that secret place. Dong Wangtai felt Zhuan's gaze and hurriedly handed the golden leaf to him. He revealed a fawning smile and said, "Fellow Taoist Zhuan, I'll leave this golden leaf with you for now. As for when to search for the primordial providence, I'll listen to you, fellow Taoist Zhua." Dong Wangtai was very smart. He could tell from Su Yuan's expression that the so-called Beast of Chaos must be a very dangerous creature. Even Su Yuan was extremely afraid of it, so he certainly couldn't search for the primordial providence alone. Zhuowen was very mysterious, and his strength was much stronger than Su Yuan's. Dongwang Tai made up his mind to follow Zhuowen and search for the primordial providence. Zhuowen accepted the gold foil and said with a nod, "Then I'll have to thank Demon Saint very much. The place where the primordial providence is located is very dangerous. If we want to go there, we must make a foolproof plan. How about this? I still have some personal matters to deal with in the heaven accessing place. When I'm done, I'll return to the demon area. At that time, let's search for the primordial providence together." Zhuowen knew that the search for the primordial providence would be extremely dangerous, and it was hard to guarantee that there would be other accidents. Therefore, Zhuowen planned to completely resolve the previous grievances before this. Back then, the Wu Tower and the heaven accessing place chased after him, and he was very embarrassed. If he hadn't been smart enough, he would have been killed in the heaven accessing place. Now, his cultivation had greatly improved, and he could already use part of the power of the Nine Tribulations Celestial Sword. Moreover, he had the ultimate Yin Fire and the sword essence of the Divine Soul. He knew that even if Wu Taiji came in person, he wouldn't be afraid. In addition, his Panga's sacred body had reached perfection, and he still needed two more venomous insects, namely the Ozi insect and the Emperor River insect. Zhuowen knew where the Ozi insect was. It was in the Nightmare Nunnery in the Nightmare Abyss in the heaven accessing place. He planned to get the Ozi insect and merge it with his Panga's sacred body. Then, he would go to the Wu Tower to settle accounts. Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan looked at each other and nodded, saying that they weren't in a hurry. They chatted for a while, and then they said goodbye and left. In the next few days, Zhuowen secluded himself to refine the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill. Dongwang Tai had sent the materials for the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill early in the morning. 3 days later, a terrifying beam of light shot up from the Saintess Hall. The beam of light pierced the sky, and an intoxicating elixir aroma quickly filled the air. "It smells so good. This is the elixir aroma. I feel like I'm in heaven. It's so comfortable." In the Saintess Hall, many maids were intoxicated by the elixir aroma. Dongwang Tai and Su Yuan were also alarmed. Soon, they knew what was going on. Zhuowen's Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill had been successfully refined. Dongwang Tai was overjoyed. He knew that as long as he had the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill, his fifth decay realm would soon be stabilized. The beam of light soon disappeared. In the Saintess Hall, Zhuowen slowly walked out of seclusion. He handed a jade bottle to Mu Chenxue and said, "Chen Shui, give this jade bottle to Dongwang Tai. There are several thousand turns jade essence pills in it." "Husband, aren't you going to meet Dongwang Tai and the others?" Mu Chenxue asked in surprise. "No need. I plan to go to the heaven accessing place now. You can wait for me in the Demon Saint Palace." Zhuowen stroked Mu Chenxue's hair and said softly, Chapter 3584. After the space-time roulette flew out of the demon divine heavenly city, Zhuowen handed over control of the roulette to Xiao He. He then entered the temporary cave residence in the space-time roulette and cultivated in seclusion again. This time, the original body took out the chaotic gem and absorbed the chaotic energy in it. His aura was also growing stronger under the effect of the chaotic energy. At the same time, Zhuowen also diverted some of his attention to let his doppelganger continue to crack the obscure restriction in the little immortal tripod. Zhuowen was not in a hurry, so it took him more than a month to reach the Xianmi heavenly territory from the demon realm, and nearly a month to go from the Xianmi heavenly territory to the star battlefield. When the space-time roulette entered the space of the star battlefield, the chaotic gem in Zhuowen's original body's hand had completely turned into powder. The energy in the chaotic gem had been completely absorbed by Zhuowen. The original body's cultivation had also broken through from the early third decay to the late third decay. It had to be said that the chaotic energy contained in the chaotic gem was too strong. It was because of the chaotic gem that Zhuowen's cultivation speed had become so terrifying. When Zhuowen's cultivation had broken through to the late third decay, he slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was filled with excitement. This was because in his perception, the doppelganger had completely cracked all the restriction in the little immortal tripod. Thinking of this, the original body entered the macro world. On the island in the center of the lake in the macro world, the doppelganger was holding the little immortal tripod. At this moment, the little immortal tripod still looked shabby and its surface was covered with the traces of time. However, the moment Zhuowen's divine thought fell on the little immortal tripod, he discovered that the aura inside the little immortal tripod had undergone a rebirth. This was because his divine thought had discovered a small space in the depths of the little immortal tripod. Boy, we are about to reach the entrance of the heaven accessing place. At this moment, Xiao Hei's voice sounded. Zhuowen pondered for a moment and said in a deep voice, "Xiao Hei, find a remote place nearby. I need to cultivate in seclusion for a few days. After I come out of seclusion, I will enter the heaven accessing place." Xiao Hei agreed. Then, she changed her course and flew in the other direction of the heaven accessing place. After Zhuowen finished instructing Xiao Hei, his divine sense slowly entered the small space deep within the little immortal Lord Cauldron. He always felt that this small space was not simple. For safety's sake, he naturally needed to find a quiet place for closed-door practice and explore the secrets of the young immortal king tripod before entering the heaven-accessing place. When Zhuowen's spiritual consciousness entered the depths of the young immortal Lord Cauldron, Zhuowen froze. His spiritual consciousness was instantly grabbed by an even more terrifying spiritual consciousness and pulled into the depths of the young immortal Lord Cauldron. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes and discovered that he was in a strange space filled with a vast expanse of white. In this space, many scenes appeared. The main character of these scenes was the rise of a young man. These are the things that the alchemy array immortal master did when he was young. Are these his memories? Zhuowen looked at the scenes in front of him. He saw the alchemy array immortal master evolve from an ordinary person to the famous alchemy array immortal master. While looking at these memories, he was also carefully studying the alchemy array immortal master's alchemy array techniques. It could be said that most of the alchemy array techniques were created by the alchemy array immortal master himself. The former was definitely a genius. Zhuowen could not help but feel a sense of respect for him. After looking through the memories of the alchemy array immortal monarch, Zhuowen realized that the alchemy array immortal monarch had relied on his own hard work and talent to cultivate the alchemy array immortal monarch to the peak. Even the alchemy array immortal master had not received any inheritance. Everything was created by himself. As he looked at these memories, Zhuowen's eyes gradually revealed a look of enlightenment. He unconsciously began to imitate the alchemy array immortal master's alchemy array techniques. He found that the speed of setting up arrays and refining pills had increased by a large margin. As Zhuowen continued to use the alchemy array immortal master's alchemy array techniques, the look of enlightenment in Zhuowen's eyes became more and more intense. He had obtained the complete true alchemy array record. Part of the alchemy arrays was passed down from the alchemy array immortal master. However, the true alchemy array record was very profound. Even Zhuowen had not completely comprehended it. But now, in this space of memories, Zhuowen gradually began to understand the parts of the true alchemy array record that he did not understand. At this moment, Zhuowen could be said to have achieved a great enlightenment. The moment Zhuowen opened his eyes, he took out beast bone array discs and skillfully set up an array. Terrifying ripples of formation, Dao, suddenly burst open, forming a terrifying power that had never been seen before. For 3 days and 3 nights, Zhuowen tirelessly set up a great array in this strange space. Finally, when he placed the last formation plate, the great formation was completed. a terrifying power that could shake the heavens and the earth swept over. This power was too terrifying. It was as if it could destroy everything. Then, the space where Zhuowen was completely torn apart and began to collapse. Zhuowen quietly looked at the torn space. At this moment, his spirit had undergone a thorough transformation. His gaze was very calm. He knew that his spirit had been elevated at this moment. At this moment, his array Tao level had also achieved an unprecedented breakthrough. He understood that his spirit had successfully broken through and ascended to the Heaven Breaker realm. Under the powerful spirit, his alchemy Tao and array Tao had also completely broken through and reached the Heaven Breaker realm. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. He was still in the temporary cave abode. The immortal monarch cauldron in front of him had been shattered, and the fragments of the immortal monarch cauldron had automatically assembled, forming bronze array flags that floated around Zhuowen. Zhuowen respectfully bowed deeply to the bronze array flags and said, "Thank you for your help, Senior." He now understood that the immortal monarch cauldron contained a trace of the divine sense of the immortal monarch cauldron. This divine sense had helped him comprehend the ultimate Tao of alchemy arrays after he entered the space, and Zhuowen had also successfully broken through. Of course, the main reason was that his spirit had been elevated. His comprehension of alchemy formations had only reached the heaven-shattering tier. If he wanted to completely evolve, then he would have to set up a heaven-shattering tier formation and a heaven-shattering tier divine pill in reality. However, Zhuowen knew that he could only be considered a true heaven breaker divine array master and alchemy master after he had completely set up the array and refined the divine pill. Of course, now that his spirit had been completely elevated to the heaven breaker level, it was not difficult to refine the heaven breaker divine pill and set up a heaven breaker array. However, Zhuowen was not in a hurry to do it. He knew that with his current array Tao level, it was enough for him to use in this starry sky. Moreover, setting up a heaven breaker array would more or less cause some damage to this starry sky. When he had used the heaven breaker divine artifact, he had already noticed it. Therefore, he planned to set up a complete heaven breaker array through the chaotic starry sky in the heaven accessing secret land, so that he could officially become a heaven breaker divine array master. At that time, Zhuowen had arrived at the periphery of the Nightmare Abyss and was besieged by 7 Third Blight cultivators from the Witch Clan, the Corpse Clan, the Spacetime Beast Clan, the Dragon Clan, the Black Tiger Clan, the Phoenix People, and the Mermaid Clan. Zhuowen had killed 5 experts in a row, while Long Haoga of the Dragon Clan and Hu Guanyu of the Black Tiger Clan had fled in fear. Such a terrifying record had shocked the entire heaven-accessing place. Whether it was the human clan or the foreign clan, everyone was alarmed and the news spread like wildfire. Naturally, the non-humankind hated Zhuowen to the core, but countless human cultivators were secretly admiring Zhuowen, and many of them worshipped Zhuowen with great fanaticism. This human guard was one of Zhuowen's admirers. Now that he had finally seen the expert he admired, it was imaginable how excited he was at this moment. "I have to report this to Lord 3 Pure Ones of the Palace of 3 Pure Ones. Master Zhuo has offended many experts from different clans on the Chaotic Street. At this moment, the Chaotic Street must know. Only Lord 3 Pure Ones can protect Master Zhuo now." The human guard soon showed a worried look. He took out a jade charm and sent a message to the Taoist child of the Palace of 3 Pure Ones, informing him that Zhuowen had returned to the heaven-accessing place. After sending the message, the human guard hurried into the street of 3 Pure Ones. Within the Shaman Tower on Desolation Street, Wu Taiji, who was originally in closed-door cultivation, slowly opened his eyes. He glanced at the jade talisman that was constantly flickering at his waist and muttered to himself with slight displeasure. "It actually sent a message when I was in closed-door cultivation. Could it be that there's something urgent?" Wu Taiji took down the jade charm and scanned it with his divine thought. His body immediately froze, and he stood up abruptly. A terrifying chi power surged out like a tide. Zhuo, you actually dare to come back. Do you really think that the heaven accessing place is a place where you can come and go as you please? Wu Taiji's eyes narrowed into slits, and his killing intent surged. At the same time, he was quite happy. He knew that Zhuo was like a sheep in a tiger's mouth. If he could capture or kill this man, it would be a great achievement. Wu Taiji left the seclusion and took out the jade charm to inform the second tower master of the wizard tower, Wu Yangshuo, and his exclusive servant, Wu Xiangjuan. In the spacious study, Wu Yangshuo and Wu Xiangjuan hurried over. Wu Taiji was already sitting in the study. Tower master, you've come out of seclusion? You must have already known about Zhuo, right? Wu Xiangjuan looked at Wu Taiji and asked in a low voice. Wu Yangshuo stood aside with a trace of excitement and brutality in his eyes. He said eagerly, Tower Master, if the Black King hadn't stopped me, Zhuo would have been killed by me. Since this man doesn't know what's good for him and has come back again, I'll go and capture that bastard. Wu Yangshuo was very confident. When Zhuo saw him, he hurriedly ran away. He knew that Zhuo was no match for him. If the Black King of Sanqing Street hadn't stopped him, Zhuo wouldn't be alive now. Wu Xiangjuan shook her head and said, Second Tower Master, even if you go, I'm afraid you can't capture Zhuo. If I'm right, the three pure ones and the Black King will definitely interfere. If Zhuo hides in Sanqing Street, we won't have a chance to enter Sanqing Street to capture him. Wu Taiji nodded and said, Xiangjuan is right. Zhuo is not a fool. Since he has returned to the heaven accessing place, he must be planning to hide in Sanqing Street and seek protection from the three pure ones. Yangshuo, even if you go in person, I'm afraid it's impossible. The three pure ones won't let you take Zhuo away. Wu Yangshuo frowned and said unwillingly, Then what should we do? If Zhuo hides in Sanqing Street for the rest of his life, we won't be able to do anything to him, right? Wu Taiji smiled faintly and said, There is a way. Didn't I tell you before? Lord Bing Hui has come out of seclusion. It's said that he was given a treasure to suppress his cultivation by an almighty. He will come to our starry sky again soon. As long as Lord Bing Hui comes, the three pure ones won't have the guts to protect Zhuo even if they want to. Besides, the old guy is only pretending to be obedient. The first thing Lord Bing Hui will do when he comes to the mortal world is to get rid of Zhuo. The second thing is to deal with the old guy. At that time, the three pure ones will probably be in a bad situation. That will be the opportunity for our desolate street. Wu Yangshuo and Wu Xiangjuan looked at each other, their faces filled with joy. Although they knew that Bing Hui would come again, they didn't know when. The only one who could contact Bing Hui was Wu Taiji. Since Wu Taiji said so, it meant that Bing Hui would come to the mortal world soon. To the hymn, to the palace, to the two. In the great hall of the Three Purities Palace, there was a statue of the Three Purities. At this moment, the Three Purities were sitting cross-legged in front of it. When Meng and the little Taoist child entered the palace, Sanqing slowly opened his eyes and said indifferently, What's the matter? Lian Meng said respectfully, Master Zhuo, he has returned to the heaven accessing to the two. Sanqing nodded and said, I've heard about it. With that, three pure ones slowly stood up and walked out hall. He continued, Let's go. Follow me to find Zhuo. Master, Zhuo has just returned to the heaven accessing to the two. Won't he come and find you? Do you want us to find him? Lian Meng said with a complicated look in her beautiful eyes. Sanqing shook his head and said with a smile, He doesn't recognize me as his master anymore. Moreover, I think he came to the heaven accessing place mainly for the OZ parasite in the nightmare abyss. If I'm not wrong, he will go to the nightmare abyss directly instead of coming to Sanqing Palace to see me. Lian Meng was silent. She sighed in her heart and followed Sanqing out of Sanqing Palace. After Zhuowen entered Sanqing Street, he went straight to the end of the street. He did not plan to stay in Sanqing Street. As Sanqing had guessed, he planned to go to the Nightmare Abyss directly. After he found the Ozi parasite and upgraded his Panga's sacred body to another level, he would rush into the chaotic street and settle accounts with the Wulu. When Zhuowen came to the end of Sanqing Street, he immediately heard someone exclaim, "Zhuowen, are you Zhuowen?" Zhuowen turned around and saw a white-haired young man with a divine sword on his back standing behind him with bright eyes. At the same time, beside the white-haired young man stood an extremely burly man with a shining broadsword at his waist. Zhuowen was stunned. He was familiar with these two people. They were the white-robed sword devil, Jiang Ruisi, and the saber tyrant, Du Huaqian. They were the top 20 experts in Sanqing Street and had been famous for a long time. He had fought with them before. However, Zhuowen only glanced at the two of them. His gaze was more focused on the man in black, standing in front of Jiang Ruisi and Du Huaqian. This man had a blue and red divine saber on his waist. This person's aura was restrained, but Zhuowen could still feel a strong sense of oppression faintly coming from this person. The early stage of the third blight, Zhuowen sized up the black-clothed man in front of him. With his powerful divine sense, he could easily detect the black-clothed man's cultivation. However, Zhuowen knew that the man's strength was far more than that. The aura he emitted was enough to prove that the man's strength was far more powerful than his cultivation. "Hey. I say, bro, why are you back? Last time you made such a big noise that the whole heaven accessing place was alarmed. You're completely famous now. And since you're so famous, why don't you change your appearance after returning to the heaven accessing place? Is it really okay to walk on the street like this?" The saber tyrant, Du Huaqian, quickly stepped forward and smiled. The white-robed sword devil was not to be outdone. He also stepped forward and chatted with Zhuowen. Both of them had seen Zhuowen's strength with their own eyes and were convinced by Zhuowen's strength. They had long wanted to make friends with him. However, after Zhuowen made a big noise, he didn't stay in Sanqing Street for long before leaving. They had no chance to make friends with Zhuowen. Now that they met Zhuowen, they would never let go of this opportunity to make friends with him. Zhuowen looked at Jiang Ruisi and Du Huaqian speechlessly. Weren't these two people always at odds with each other? Why were they getting along so well now and showing such tacit understanding? "You're Zhuowen, the one who fought against 7 experts of the third blight of the alien race alone?" The black-robed man, who had been silent, finally couldn't help but ask. During this time, Zhuowen's reputation was too great. Everywhere he went, there were various versions of legends about Zhuowen. He had been in seclusion before and had just come out. Moreover, his reputation in Sanqing Street was far higher than Jiang Ruisi and Du Huaqian's. He was proud and arrogant. Chapter 3587. Taoism Fellow Zhua. This is Xiao Huanyu, nicknamed the Ice and Fire Saber God. He has both ice and fire attributes, and is a top genius in Sanqing Street. His strength can be ranked in the top 5 in Sanqing Street. Saber Tyrant Du Huaqian whispered in Zhuowen's ear. Judging from his appearance, he was obviously afraid of Xiao Huanyu. Xiao Huanyu naturally heard Saber Tyrant's voice. He raised his chin slightly and revealed a proud look. During this period of time, Zhuowen's fame in the heaven-accessing place was so great that it spread like wildfire. In his opinion, these rumors were somewhat untrue. Now that he saw that Zhuowen was not very old, he subconsciously thought that Zhuowen could not be that strong. "Zhuowen, just as Du Huaqian said, my name is Xiao Huanyu. I have been in seclusion and have just come out. Recently, there have been rumors about you. I don't know if you have time to exchange pointers with me and learn from each other." Xiao Huanyu's eyes were blazing. He stared at Zhuowen, and a fighting spirit rose in his heart. He had just broken through the early stage of the third blight and was in high spirits. At this moment, he wanted to find an expert with a good reputation to fight and make his name known. If it were in the past, Xiao Huanyu would naturally find an expert ranked 4th in Sanqing Street to fight. But now, he happened to meet Zhuowen, who was extremely famous during this period of time. He naturally regarded Zhuowen as a stepping stone that could make him famous. Zhuowen said impatiently, "I'm in a hurry. Don't block my way." Jie? Xiao Huanyu's belly full of fighting spirit was immediately extinguished by Zhuowen's impatient words. He was the expert ranked 5th in Sanqing Street and had been famous for a long time. Everyone in the heaven-accessing place knew about him. In his opinion, he had taken the initiative to challenge Zhuowen, which was giving Zhuowen a lot of face. But what was with this guy's attitude? He was so impatient, as if he was driving away a lackey. Xiao Huanyu's face was red and gloomy. He said coldly, "You really don't know what's good for you. In that case, I won't talk nonsense with you. Today, I just wanted to exchange pointers with you, but you don't know what's good for you. I won't hold back. If you're accidentally destroyed by me, don't blame me. I didn't give you a chance." As he spoke, Xiao Huanyu's hands suddenly pulled out 2 red and blue sabers from his waist. The blue ice energy and the crimson fire energy intertwined, forming a terrifying barrier of ice and fire around them. At the same time, an earth-shattering pressure erupted from Xiao Huanyu's body. The space within the fire and ice barrier began to violently explode as it began to collapse inch by inch. Blade Tyrant, Du Huaqian, and white-robed Sword Demon Zhang Ruisi were very unfortunate. They were unable to dodge in time and were trapped inside the ice and fire barrier. They were struggling to resist the terrifying pressure released by Xiao Huanyu. It. How could he attack without any warning? I wasn't prepared at all. The ice and fire barrier was Xiao Huanyu's final trump card. He actually used this move as soon as he attacked. Du Huanyu and Jiang Rue cursed in their hearts. This Xiao Huanyu was too unreasonable. Didn't he see that they were not far from Zhuowen? He used such a large-scale move as soon as he attacked. Wasn't he going to let them off? Moreover, the two of them were secretly shocked. After Xiao Huanyu came out of seclusion, he had really broken through to the 3rd blight. His strength had reached such a terrifying level. Inside this ice and fire enchantment, Xiao Huanyu only needed a thought to kill the two of them. Moreover, Xiao Huanyu himself was a peerless genius. His cultivation had just broken through to the early stage of the 3rd blight, but his strength was comparable to a mid-stage 3rd blight, or even a late-stage 3rd blight expert. How could they fight such an opponent? Even if the two of them were very optimistic about Zhuowen at the beginning, their hearts were beating like drums. They felt that Zhuowen was still lacking compared to Xiao Huanyu. Zhuowen stopped at the edge of the ice and fire boundary and slowly turned around. The calmness in his eyes had long been replaced by indifference. He looked at Xiao Huanyu and said word by word, "Are you deaf? I'm in a hurry right now and don't have time to play around with you. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and remove this boundary." Xiao Huanyu was amused. This ice and fire barrier was his strongest trump card. With his current cultivation, even a peak 3rd blight powerhouse would find it difficult to escape from the ice and fire barrier. But this Zhuowen actually said that he was playing around. Did he really think that he was an expert on the same level as Taoist 3 purities? It seems that you don't understand the situation at all. Since that's the case, let me teach you a good lesson. After saying this, Xiao Huanyu rushed forward. The ice and fire divine blades in his hands sent out terrifying red and blue blade lights that swept towards Zhuowen like a storm. It's over. This Zhuowen is done for. Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi looked at each other and bitterly smiled. The two of them were suppressed by the ice and fire boundary and couldn't move. They could only barely resist the terrifying attacks of the ice and fire boundary. Boom! Zhuowen's expression was indifferent. With a wave of his sleeve, the dense red and blue blade lights were all torn apart. Then Zhuowen grabbed with his right hand. The surging broken divine power fell on Xiao Huanyu like an invisible hand. In the end, Xiao Huanyu, who was originally full of momentum, was caught in Zhuowen's hand like a chicken. What? Xiao Huanyu's expression changed greatly. He gathered all the strength in his body and tried to break free from the invisible hand, but it was in vain. Zhuowen pulled Xiao Huanyu in front of him and mercilessly slapped him. Xiao Huanyu spun more than 10 times in the air and fell heavily to the ground. Ga. Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi, who couldn't bear to watch, were petrified when they saw this scene. What was going on? Xiao Huanyu had just broken through. Although he was only at the early third blight, his strength was comparable to the late third blight. With such strength, he could be ranked among the top experts in the heaven-accessing secret realm. But now, in the hands of Zhuowen, Xiao Huanyu was knocked to the ground with just a grab and a slap. He couldn't get up like a dead dog. Zhuowen didn't even look at Xiao Huanyu, who was knocked unconscious by him. His right hand formed a fist and punched the ice and fire boundary. Ka. The ice and fire boundary was torn to pieces like paper. Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi's mouths were wide open. They didn't expect Zhuowen's strength to be so strong. In any case, Xiao Huanyu was ranked 5th in the 3 Purity Street, but he was actually knocked unconscious by a single slap. What made the two of them even more speechless was that Zhuowen's face showed a disgusted and impatient expression. It was as if he didn't feel any sense of accomplishment after defeating Xiao Huanyu. At this moment, Zhuowen didn't feel any sense of accomplishment in his heart. He just felt depressed and angry. Even Dongwang Tai, an early 5th Blight expert, was in awe of Zhuowen. Xiao Huanyu, who was only at the early 3rd Blight, dared to provoke him. Chapter 3588. Of course, it was not Xiao Huanyu's fault. Zhuowen had made great progress since he left the heaven-accessing place. Not to mention the 9 Tribulations sacred sword, the sword essence of spirit, and the ultimate Hanin fire. His cultivation had reached the late stage of the 3rd decay. If Xiao Huanyu had come to him before he left the heaven-accessing place, Zhuowen would have had to go through a lot of trouble to defeat him. But now, Xiao Huanyu was courting death. After breaking the boundary of ice and fire, Zhuowen went straight to the exit of the heaven-accessing place. When he passed through the exit and entered the chaotic starry sky, his divine thoughts immediately perceived 7 horrible chi power approaching him quickly. It's Zhuowen. I thought you would hide in the 3 Purity Street and need me to negotiate with the 3 Purities. They might hand you over. What I didn't expect was that a little bastard like you would have the guts to leave Sanqing Street. It seems that you have a death wish. A thunderous voice came first and resounded around the exit of the heaven-accessing place. Then, a flowing light came quickly and appeared not far from Zhuowen. And this figure did not stop in front of Zhuowen, but behind Zhuowen, which was close to the exit of the heaven-accessing place. Once Zhuowen wanted to return to the 3 Purity Street, this person could immediately stop Zhuowen. In this way, Zhuowen's only way out was completely blocked. Zhuowen looked at this person and found that it was an extremely burly middle-aged man. However, this person's skin color was different from that of ordinary people, and his height was also much higher than that of the human clan. Wu Yangshua of the Wulu. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and recognized the person in front of him. It was Wu Yangshua, the 2nd Tower Master of the Wulu. When Zhuowen had just left the heaven-accessing place, Wu Yangshua had chased after him. Fortunately, he was stopped by the Black King. Of course, Zhuowen did not know about this. Whoosh, whoosh. At the same time that Zhuowen called out Wu Yangshua's name, another 6 streaks of light flew over from afar, surrounding Zhuowen in a fan-shaped formation. These 6 figures were all foreign races, and their auras were extremely vast and terrifying. They were all 4th Blight experts. Amongst them, there were 4 that were at the initial stage of the 4th decay and 2 that were at the intermediate stage of the 4th decay. Along with Wu Yangshua, who was at the peak of the 4th decay, this formation was simply unprecedented. At this moment, Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi had just come out of the entrance of the heaven-accessing place. They had originally chased after Zhuowen and wanted to ask him about his cultivation. When the two of them came out and saw Zhuowen surrounded by 7 people, they were stunned. When they saw the 7 people clearly, they began to wonder if they were hallucinating. However, We have already agreed that whether we capture him alive or dead, he will belong to our Wu Lu. This is the person that Lord Bing Hui wants to kill. Wu Yangshua finally spoke. The 6 patriarchs, who were originally arguing, fell silent. When they heard about Bing Hui, their eyes were filled with fear. Bing Hui's origin was too great. He was not a character of this starry sky, but a terrifying existence that transcended beyond this starry sky. This person had descended into their starry sky and was invincible. No one would be his match. You all are talking like a pack of wild dogs barking. Do you really think you can kill me? Zhuowen finally spoke. His voice was calm, but there was an inexplicable chill in it. Haha, it's not that we can kill you. It's that you are dead for sure. Brother Wu is right. This kid is already our mortal enemy. It has already reached the point where it's either you die or I die. If we don't get rid of him today, we won't have any peace in the future. The gazes of the other patriarchs darkened as well. Their hearts trembled violently at the reminder of the space-time beast patriarch. The space-time beast ancestor was right. They had already made a life-and-death feud with Zhuowen. Most importantly, Zhuowen's speed of improvement was simply too fast. It was so fast that they found it unbelievable. Based on Zhuo Wen's speed of development, if this kid really managed to escape this time, they might not be a match for this kid the next time they came. Let's attack together. This kid can't be left alive. Otherwise, he will definitely be a disaster in the future. The Phoenix people's old ancestor was the first to attack. Endless flowing flames surged around his body as he spread his wings and flew into the sky, forming an incomparably huge fire phoenix in the starry sky. The space-time beast ancestor followed closely behind, manifesting his colossal body. His appearance was that of a gigantic serpent dragon, and wherever he passed, space-time was thrown into chaos. Countless collapsed regions of space-time appeared. The Black Tiger Clan, the Dragon Clan, and the Mermaid Clan's old ancestors strode over in the endless starry sky, revealing their strongest forms and rushing over from all directions. Zhuowen, you're dead meat today. Weiyang Shua's eyes were cold. His body continued to grow taller, and his aura increased at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it reached its peak state, and his body also reached its peak state. He was like a supreme giant that had existed in this world since ancient times. Without a doubt, Weiyang Shua was the strongest among the 6. Just the aura that erupted from him alone was enough to stir up the winds and clouds in this entire area. It was exceptionally powerful. Dang, dang, dang. Weiyang Shua took one step after another, his speed increasing. The starry sky around him was constantly distorted and collapsed, as if the starry sky was fragile glass. The 6 old ancestor-level powerhouses had finally joined forces to attack. Jiang Ruisi and Du Huaqian, who were standing at the entrance of Sanqing Street, revealed a look of shock and uncertainty. They sighed in their hearts. They could already foresee Zhuowen's fate. At the same time, at the end of Sanqing Street, the ice and fire saber god, Xiao Huanyu, slumped on the steps beside him in a daze. He had already woken up from his unconscious state. Recalling what had just happened, he clenched his fists tightly, and his heart was filled with bitterness. He was a young powerhouse ranked 5th on Sanqing Street. He thought that he could easily defeat Zhuowen, who had recently become famous, and make a name for himself in one battle. However, the reality was cruel. Xiao Huanyu greets Lord Sanqing. The instant Xiao Huanyu saw the 3 people, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He hurriedly knelt on one knee and bowed respectfully. He was shocked. He didn't expect that the master of Sanqing Palace, Taoist 3 Purities, would appear here. One had to know that Taoist 3 Purities was the master of Sanqing. Unless something major happened, he wouldn't leave Sanqing Palace. Once he left Sanqing Palace, it meant that something major had happened. Xiao Huanyu suddenly thought of Zhuowen, and a hint of understanding rose in his heart. Perhaps Sanqing had come for Zhuowen. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.